I've used some of this stuff in my classes.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, happy April Fool's Day. I joked on my Facebook that I'm going to sell all my belongings and move to Yukon territory, so maybe I'll disappear. I have good news for the start of the meeting today. Jessica Igo, as you may all know, was with child for this entire year. And she had her baby a week ago Friday.
All right.
9 pound, 1 ounce toddler.
Wow. Are we on
Okay, would
film?
somebody like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Any volunteers? Thank you, Pat.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Introductions. I see Cynthia Rico, the Dean of Counseling, Crystal Colas, Head of IPRO, Sheila Rose, Head of IEC, Simon Fraser, the State Associated Student President, and anybody who I'm missing. Stephanie Fleming, the Head of Accreditation. Anybody else who I'm missing? Anybody want to represent themselves as coming from Classified or from the Courier?
I'm from the Classified.
Classified? Okay. Deborah Contrero from Classified. Okay, the first thing on our agenda is to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes before we start? Okay. Second, Terry? Any discussion of the minutes from last week? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. By the way, thank you to Judy for helping get those minutes together, because I knew there was a sitting in for secretary. So thank you again, Judy, for the comment. Okay, what I'm going to do for the public comment is the ones that were for more general items, we'll take those right now for public comment. So I'm going to take them in the order that I got them here. So Erlen Waydall first.
My comment is this. Everybody says that the administration does not listen. But I would like to note also that the Senate is not speaking. Individual senators have been giving their opinions during this crisis. But the Senate body as a whole appears to be silent. And as a result of this, the Senate has left a leadership void, a void which other groups have had to fill. In the Academic Senate bylaws, it says in the section on the purpose of the Senate, it's an excerpt on it. Article 2.1, represent the faculty on all policies and procedures involving academic and professional matters. Article 2.3, strengthen the role of the faculty in the governance process. And I want to clarify that I'm not saying take a fight with the administration. I'm just saying stand up for the academic issues that you really care about. For example, take class size limits. Only the union is currently stopping the administration from increasing them by a large percentage. What is the Senate doing about it? Don't wait until it's too late. Thank you.
Okay, next was Danny Hammond.
Yeah, I just want to make a couple comments. On Larry Mantle's Air Talk today at about 11:35, Dr. Rocha was on the radio, and these are some statements that he made. I'm not quoting them, but to the best of my understanding, number one, he said that the problem PCC is not a shared governance problem or issue, but a labor dispute, a 10-year-long labor dispute. He also said that, and I'm going to come back to that point, he also said that the decision made regarding the calendar went fully through the shared governance process. That was my understanding of what he said. You can listen to it. I was trying to get it so I could actually have you listen to the parts, but it was too hard technically because it wasn't even posted online until, well, I don't even know if it's there yet, but it was this morning. He also said that the calendar issue had been turned over to the Academic Senate, from the Academic Senate to the Faculty Association. And this has been brought up before. I've been on this Academic Senate for the last 6 years, and I've been I'm the co-lead negotiator with the Faculty Association now. I am not aware of that issue ever being turned over to the Faculty Association. There's nothing in writing. There's no knowledge of it to me or anybody else that I've checked with it. If somebody does have that knowledge or has something in writing that says it's been turned over, in fact, I wouldn't think it would be the purview or the authority of the president of the Academic Senate. It was under Ed, is when it was claimed it was done. I wouldn't even think he would have the right to do that without our approval. And as far as I know, I was at most meetings and that was never approved, that we would turn over the calendar to the Faculty Association. So there's no record of it, there's nothing in writing about it, I have no knowledge of this, but that's what's being claimed. It was said on the radio again today. The calendar change was made, again, this is what he said, the calendar change was made based on academic reasons. We had declining scores, is what he said. And we have been told that in negotiations as well. So these are academic issues. And I want to go back to when he first said this is a labor dispute, not a shared governance problem. The two biggest problems with the labor problem have to do with NCNs and the calendar. Those are both shared governance issues. And speaking of those issues, I have two handouts over here to get a chance to get them. One shows these are the numbers under the old NCNs and the new NCNs and what it would mean as far as increases in classroom sizes. It's a little complex, so I don't want to get into it too much, but it just shows the original 82, 83 NCNs and the 2012, which are the most recent, what we believe are pedagogically correct. And then it shows how many students you would have to put in there if you had a 20% increase. Now remember, it's not just going to be a 20% increase, because that's on average, and there are many classes where you cannot increase 20% because there's only so many, in a lab, there's only so many spaces. So the other classes will get even more than this. But for instance, you can see the percentage over the most current NCNs that were approved by the Academic Senate. They range between 30 and over 100% more than what is recommended pedagogically. The number of students is in the double digits on the far right. The one 82, 83, that's over the NCNs of 82, 83. The one on the far right is over 2012. Again, it's a lot of numbers. If you want me to explain it to you afterwards, I'd be glad to. In regards to his claim that we've never been shown any data, that we have declining data since the winter intersession was installed. But we did have some data that was put out, I believe, by our own IPRO here, and it shows higher percentages. That's on the lighter one. On the back side, it shows higher percentages in most semesters since the winter intersession was put in. And then finally, I just wanted to, on the other side is the only, as far as I could tell, argument, academic argument for winter intersession being removed. And I just wanted to point out a couple of things. First of all, in the first sentence, it says, to date, there have not been any comprehensive studies of the effects of summer and winter intersession breaks on academic achievement at 2-year and 4-year colleges. Well, we're a 2-year college, so there are no studies that show this, but he's going to use this study. If the next sentence says, however, research on summer vacation at K through 12. So this is a study on K through 12 and summer vacations there, okay? And then third, after describing these two studies, the first sentence in the third paragraph on that page says, again, it should be noted that a direct causal link to the loss of achievement at the college level and intersession breaks should not be concluded from these two meta-analysis studies. So this is the part of the argument for this winter intersession, which today, again, he argued had nothing to do with budget, which is not what we were told by board members when we met with them. And that supposed crisis is clearly over as far as the budget crisis. So I just wanted to point some of those things out. That's what was said on the radio today.
Thank you, Dan. I'm probably saying this last name wrong. I apologize. Roberta Tragars?
Tragars.
Tragars, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Good afternoon. My name is Roberta Tragars. I've lived in Pasadena for over 20 years, and both of my children attend public school here. I was an adjunct English professor at Pasadena City College from spring 1997 to spring 2000, when I was hired as a tenure-track professor at Santiago Canyon College in the city of Orange. I have now been teaching at SEC for 13 years. 2000 to 2001 was my first year at SEC. It was also Mark Rocha's first and only year as our college president. As an active citizen of this city, I have been reading in the press about Mark Rocha's tenure as president during the last 3 years. When I read that there was a vote of no confidence by students and a group of professors, I contacted my good friend Margaret Manson, former Vice President of Academic Affairs during Mark Rocha's time at SCC. I knew that she would want her voice to be heard. This is a statement that she wrote on March 28, 2013. She lives back east and asked me if I would read it to you. Concerning President Mark Rocha, I have read with both interest and concern the supporting documentation for the proposed vote of no confidence for Mark Rocha, President of PCC. While I cannot address the internal politics regarding PCC's need to reduce or cancel classes, eliminate faculty, or increase class sizes, I can speak to his leadership style as I experienced it and his willful disregard of shared governance at SCC. Mark was the first college president hired after SCC became a separate college within the Rancho Santiago Community College District. I was the vice president of academic affairs at that time and served as a member of the hiring committee. Even though Mark had no California community college experience, he was an impressive candidate. I was not a candidate for this position and assured Mark when he was hired that I would do everything I could to ensure his success. I also told him that I would keep him informed and assist him as he became familiar with the community college structure and our system of shared governance. As a longtime district employee, initially hired in 1979, I was well versed in the development and intent of AB 1725. However, within a very short period of time, it became clear that Mark had no intent of sharing college governance with any other constituent groups as required or had historically been the case at SCC. In reviewing documents from the Santiago Canyon College Academic Senate at that time, it is clear that the SCC faculty also experienced intimidation and, in their words, were treated in a condescending manner, not as colleagues, nor as staff, with valid historical viewpoints. I certainly knew this to be true when Mark had open battles with faculty at the Academic Senate. His reports to me following such encounters were that he had been belly bumping and that he never stepped off the sidewalk for anyone. Mark seemed to enjoy the combative approach. On more than one occasion, he came to me to complain about individual faculty members who did not respect him as president. I personally experienced Mark's anger and outrage when, after an especially difficult encounter with a faculty member, he came into my office, shut the door, and demanded to know what I had done to cause this faculty member to treat him in such a disrespectful way, since he was the college president. I explained to him at that time that the problem was not mine, and that in battling with faculty, he was creating serious problems that would make it more and more difficult for the new college to function effectively. Although I had hoped to continue in my administrative position, it became increasingly clear that I could not work for Mark, and I reluctantly decided to exercise my retreat rights to the classroom. After I made this very tough decision, Mark was furious with me and highly concerned about how this would make him look. Toward the end of my administrative tenure, he came into my office, shut the door, and stood blocking the door while he told me in direct and offensive language that he had no intent of seeking revenge against me for leaving my administrative position and making it look bad for him. While I had been aware for some time that his anger, and in this case rage, was generally directed toward women, this final encounter left me shaken. In the many years I worked for the district, having had many different positions and levels of responsibility, I had never worked for a more unscrupulous or unethical administrator. When Mark told me early on that his approach was, "This is what we tell the faculty, but this is what we really do," I knew we were not a well-matched administrative team. I had hoped that somewhere along the way, he would have learned to moderate his anger, operate with honesty and transparency, and recognize that all voices need to be honestly considered in the decision-making process. While I hope some of this is true, concerns expressed by the PCC faculty seem very familiar and are consistent with my own experiences. When PCC was hiring the new president, I received a call from someone at your college. I spoke to the caller about what I perceived as Mark's anger problem, his treatment of women, as I and my SEC colleagues experienced it, and explained that I still have my notes and documents that clearly indicate many of the problems of his presidency. When it became apparent that Mark was going to be hired, My advice to the caller was eyes wide open is the best approach. I also remember feeling badly for PCC and all those connected to this well-respected college. When my former colleagues contacted me about faculty concerns at PCC, I was sorry, but not surprised. Respectfully, Margaret Manson, retired Vice President of Academic Affairs and professor at Santiago Canyon College. As a first-year tenure-track faculty member, I wasn't focused on the inner workings of the college at that time. In fact, people told us to stay out of it because we were concerned about what might happen with Mark Rocha in charge. But many of my colleagues had negative exchanges with him. Recently, I was speaking to a colleague who was a division chair during Mark Rocha's tenure. That year, she was reading the local paper and found out that a department in her division had partnered with a local university. This was news to her. She sent Mark Rocha an email congratulating him on the partnership, but also asked that she be informed about these types of ventures in the future. His response, when you need to know something, I'll tell you. There are stories like this that could be told by many of my colleagues. The sad part about that year, as most will tell you, is that our school lost our true focus, the students. Inevitably, it was time and energy well spent, as Mark Rocha did not finish the year. Before our Senate's resolution of no confidence could be voted on, and it probably would have been unanimous, our Chancellor asked our Senate board to hold off. Within a week, Mark Rocha was on administrative leave. PCC is important to this community. I hope that this group will listen carefully to what I've shared with you and that you listen to your colleagues about what is going on at this campus. I got my start here. This is where I learned how to be a professor, and it has always been a place that is important to me. I live 2.5 miles away, and for 3 years I've been listening to what's been going on, and I really hope that you guys will listen. Thank you. And there's copies of the statement, Margaret's statement, that will be passed around.
Can we ask a question from
Other comment now. Okay. Simon, you have a lot of different things you wanted to be on here. Do you want to talk to your more general auditing and AS update, and then I'll save your other comments for when we get to vote and items.
Sure.
So auditing and AS, PCC updates.
So it's hard to follow that. Wow. Thank you. First of all, I did want to update, because I do know the Academic Senate did take action on the auditing policy. AS did have a couple of concerns with it that can be fixed, possibly. However, no one from the Academic Senate ever did come to the Associated Students to discuss or present the policy. So I'm a little bit concerned and disappointed that no one took that, not much energy, but a little bit of energy to present to the Associated Students. And I'm going to reiterate again, shared governance. The Academic Senate has a weight to its voice, which is to rely primarily upon a mutual agreement. However, as I've done some more research, the AS and AS responsibilities overlap in many cases. And so where they overlap, the direction that the Chancellor's Office gives to shared governance groups is that while there's a higher weight given to the Academic Senate, that does not mean that that voice completely outshines the student voice. In fact, it still needs to be heard and it still needs to be presented much in the same way. The comments that the Associated Students would have simply need to be given a little slightly lower weight than the Academic Senate's. I'm concerned that on this campus that hasn't happened, period. That when something's become an academic and professional matter, even if it's on our list, it comes straight to Academic Senate with nothing else. And that's concerning to me, and I hope that the Academic Senate would support not only its own shared governance rights, but our shared governance rights as well, moving forward from this point. I do want to give an update on AS activities very briefly. We have elections going on right now, so please encourage your students to vote and to turn out to vote. I think that it's very important that the democratic process continue, especially given the circumstances we have on campus where it's all in a flux and some stability is needed. We will be having a joint meeting with the Board of Trustees this April 3rd, and of course, please again let your students know turnout is welcome. And we will be briefly discussing the student activity fee, most likely, which is one of our main sources of funding, along with food service. And finally, I want to let everyone know that I'm available. I won't take up Academic Senate time with it, but there were a couple of claims made about AS and its actions and the way that it has responded. Some of them were made by Dr. Rocha at this meeting 2 weeks ago. I unfortunately wasn't here. I was in the District of Columbia lobbying people on actual really important issues. And so I wasn't able to attend and listen to what he had to say. I watched it afterwards. It wasn't all correct. I do want that to be clear. None of this was a drive-by for the administration. I want that to be known. But I'm happy to talk to anyone individually afterwards, so I don't take up academic senate time. I just want everyone to know that the AS continues to stand by its actions as being appropriate, necessary, and what was needed at that point moving forward, and that we have no intention right now of changing our minds or going back on that, regardless of where the consequences will probably leave the associated students. Thank you.
I have a question. Are you going to have a meeting with the candidates, the students?
Yes, we are. We're going to have town hall. So the first candidates forum is in the Wi-Fi lounge Thursday, and then next Tuesday, and then next Thursday at 12 o'clock.
Thank you, Simon. And then Melissa, you want to talk about the website?
Oh yeah, I was looking at the Academic Senate website, and it says on the faculty survey page that was done from November 19, 2012, on whether or not the faculty opposed the process by which winter was canceled or support the process. It says at the very top, it says from full-time and adjunct faculty. So I was wondering if that was, if adjunct faculty were polled in this. Were they?
They were. They were. Yeah, I remember putting all the stamps and all the envelopes in the end. It took like 2 hours. But yeah, we did do all the actions. They did.
There's no change.
Thank you. Okay, that closes all the sort of general public comment. I'm going to save the more specific ones for the actual items when they come up here.
I actually wanted to do mine public, very public comment, because I don't know if I'll be able to just.
Oh, okay. It was, okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to speak directly to the senators. I don't have to stand up, right?
No, you don't have to stay.
In regards to the first item on your agenda, which is the IEC, I really want to encourage you to vote this policy down. Unlike the language it quotes, purports not to in any way contradict the policies that stand. It does contradict policy 2000 insofar as it encroaches on the 10+1 areas this body is responsible for and has duties to protect. Specifically in that area, if you look at policy 2000, you will find program review is part of your purview. It is the purview of academic senate, and it cannot be nor should not be signed away. It is part of the regulations of Title V, Ed Code, as well as AB 1725. So there are also some other issues that are troubling in that policy. I've already spoken to the leads on this committee. Those problems persist. Some of them I'll just outline briefly. Section 6, which sets up a leadership group within the committee, essentially outside of any supervision by the Senate. Section 7, and all membership of that leadership committee is appointed by the seated, one of the administrative seated co-chair, not back to the Senate. Number 7, section 7, seems to outline the committee's procedures for student outcome assessments. Again, I've spoken to the people of this committee. I've sent out comments to them and outlining this problem. This is actually the purview of each faculty in an area or division. We are to come up with our student learning outcomes for our courses. They cannot change those certain student learning outcomes unless they are one of the faculty members in that area. So the language here is very tricky. And I'm sure they don't need to be tricky, but it's been pointed out and it still remains. Also, this area seems to suggest that somebody can come into your classroom and assess your students for you. Again, this is something only faculty should do and are required to do, right, as part of program review and as part of review of your curriculum.
Can I ask a question? Where are you reading? Yes, sorry, you said 7? Is the top that says that? Should I take back to the meeting? Yeah. Number 7 says, the mission of the Learning Assessment Committee is to improve student learning outcomes by supporting teaching and learning through assessment at course, program, and general education level. At course level, which means it can go into your course as this language now stands.
No, that's not it.
It doesn't matter.
Martha,
That's the language.
can I ask you a question? Actually, we're gonna, in order sort of to make sure we follow parliamentary here, let's just get the item on the floor first, and then I'll let you continue your comment. So let's just get the item out there first. So let me just close public comment.
I'm not finished.
But you can speak up once we get the item on the floor, because basically this is general comment.
Let me
sort of
point
general-
out one last thing in my public comment, please. And that is that in section 2, we move from informing the work of the BRAC and lower down, again, this was pointed out, it is a recommendation to the curriculum and instruction as well as to the accreditation liaison officer. These recommendations are important and they should be part of this committee's work. It is actually outlined in the ACC or in the Academic Senate statewide recommendations. They make recommendations to BRAC. That language is not here. There are a number of areas in this policy that are flawed. And I've asked it to be addressed, but it has not. I asked that you not vote on this policy, but you voted down.
Okay, Mark, please.
Okay, so when we talk about these issues, we have a huge agenda, and Dustin has very nicely put time limits on the agenda for each section. So unless we want to change that, we'll stick with time limits, and we also have to raise our hands. Just a friendly reminder.
So let me just sort of see, is anybody willing to make a motion to put the IEC policy 2560 on the floor for a vote
Can I have a
first?
public comment?
Does anybody have a motion to put? Public comment's closed, I just closed it.
I
I just
have a
closed
hard
it.
that you would.
Public comment was just closed.
Don't we
So
have-
Does anybody have a motion to?
With possible
Your
extension.
decision.
We have 20-minute limit with possible extension, so we should vote if we want to extend it by
Well,
more
we can
than.
extend the time limit later.
We haven't gotten to that
We
part.
haven't got to that yet.
I
So does anybody
have a
have?
comment that I would like to make. I wrote a comment card and it hasn't been called.
About this particular item?
No,
Here.
not about the IEC, no.
Oh, we'll get to that once we get the agenda on the floor. Then
No,
I'll call the
I-
three that have that
as
once
part
we
of
get that.
Public comment, I have it on there as a non-agenda item.
That's why it's circled as an agenda item.
It's circled as both.
No, it's circled as just agenda item.
In any case, I'd like to talk about, I have a public comment that I would like to make right now. If we could just keep it open so that.
I already closed it, I'm so
Is
sorry.
that
We're
your
moving on.
decision?
That is my decision.
Can we appeal your decision?
You can't appeal my decision.
We can't?
We can't. It's non-vote, it's a non-debatable item, but we need the majority of the room to counter, actually, no, 2/3 of the room to counter on my order.
Well, I'm.
Any second to that?
I'll second.
So, basically the item on the floor is sort of saying that public comment should be reopened, basically. All those in favor of reopening public comment signify by saying aye or overriding my vote.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, public comment is reopened. So Melissa, please go ahead.
Okay, just really quickly, I know we have a packed agenda, thank you, everybody. Just as a little background to how this item is coming up. This, I sent on Thursday something to all of you. It was a copy of a resolution that the Senate could formally make. This was submitted to Dustin on Tuesday by Yolanda McKay as a continuation of the endorsement of the faculty voting no confidence, but it wasn't put on the agenda as an action item. On Thursday, I saw that the draft was not put on the agenda, and Judy had emailed it in her email to all of us. So, following Brown Act policy number 54954.2.2B2, I thus will make and would like to put this on the agenda today as an action item. I will make a motion later to have this document, the resolution, put on the agenda. As there is a need for the Senate to take immediate action, and this is separate from informational item number 6. We can discuss it and vote on it today or next time, but it's not an informational item. I'd like to briefly outline 5 reasons why I feel we really need to deal with this today. Number one, summer break is around the corner. We have one more meeting. The new calendar has us finishing a month and a half earlier than usual. If we don't do something now, this will carry on until September, 4 months. This will have been 1 year since the Senate had first done their own survey and presented that to the Board of Trustees. Our prolonged silence can be interpreted as our acquiescence, disinterest, or even approval of what is happening to shared governance at PCC. Time is of essence. Number two, the administration has already started telling the press, as we've heard from Danny today, that the voting of confidence that we had conducted already within faculty is related to union, contract, or salary issues. We need to set things straight fast. None of the points on this resolution draft that you have deal with labor contract or salary. They all fall under Senate's purview. And linking the vote of no confidence to contract issues completely dismisses what the vote of no confidence is really about. Number three, this draft is taken from a vote of no confidence that full-time faculty have already seen. It's mostly the same document. It's meant to, however, it's been adjusted to focus on shared governance and Senate purview items only. Several senators here today have taken a look, cursory look, and given some feedback. We don't have the luxury of time. The statement that you have in the draft form is in draft form already. It's ready for first read and possibly ratification. Number four, faculty have been cut out of the evaluation process for the last 3 years. Also, we need to show solidarity with the students that passed their resolution 1 month ago. We should not wait until September. It's time to step up to the plate. After the Board of Trustees, we are the second most powerful shared governance group at PCC. This is where votes of no confidence need to originate, as they are always linked to violations of shared governance. Sometimes they might even have positive effects, like what we heard today at Santiago College. Finally, this does not have to take much more time today. I believe if Yolanda would like to withdraw her item from the agenda, we can take the 10 minutes that's been allotted to that and use for this once we deal with the other business, of course. Therefore, so we can start discussing this document as an official agenda item, I would like to move to put this resolution on the agenda as an item for possible action today.
Parliamentarian?
You have to have a 2/3 vote. First, we have to have.
I would like to motion then, to put this on the agenda.
You can't, it's not a motion.
Okay, when can I
You
put
have
a
to,
motion?
you have to, we would have to have a 2/3 vote to go outside of what's agendized on the agenda. So you have to have a 2/3 vote of the
Can we take
senators
a
that are
vote?
here. Sure.
Let's take a vote.
Take a vote.
You want to vote? It's gotta be a 2/3. Do we have everybody here?
Before we vote, can I ask if number 6 is a action item?
It's not.
Okay, it's not. Then we need, I think we need to take a vote.
Procedural question, yes.
Okay, so if this item stays where it is, could it be an action item, for sure action item on the following week, or would it have to go to first read before it could go to a vote?
The procedure we've been following all year is to have committee report, first read, then vote.
Okay, so in order to be able to vote on it next time, it would have to be a first read this time.
Unless we change the rules at the next meeting, that could be the will of the
And
Senate.
just to,
Parliamentary question? Yes, please.
now just to clarify to you, Katie, this is slightly separate from the endorsement that was tabled from last week. This is a Senate's own resolution. Got it as a new item. Thank you.
Yolanda?
I guess I'm willing to rescind my item because I was told by you that you want to send it to committee, and the way that I read send it to committee as in Washington, that's the quick way. So I would prefer that if we vote on it and have it be an action if possible.
Let me just sort of clarify for the record, and this is just speaking for myself here. Once I got this packet on Thursday at home, Judy called me, and I wasn't sure of the parliamentary procedures of all of this. I sought a legal opinion. And by the way, on the advice of Pinella, we did inform the administration that this order had, this particular item had been given to us. So I got a call from Gail Cooper over the weekend, and I'm not going to read her statement because I know that her item here might be considered to be not unbiased. So what I decided to do here, let me just sort of take a couple steps here. Number one is
I think it's really important that before the Senate take up an item of this particular significance, because this is an incredibly significant act, that I get a second opinion from the statewide academic senate directly from Michelle Pilati herself. And I've taken steps to do so already, because let me tell you why. 2 reasons. Number one, if we took this action today and it had not been fully agendized, I get the sense that the administration is ready to declare the vote null and void. Because of the fact that there was no due notice to the public that we were going to vote on this today, and that therefore it basically is an invalid vote. Let me finish first. Second, I also think that it's actually, there's 2 parts to this. I think that it's going to be putting senators here, sitting here today, in an incredibly difficult place. First, they haven't had a chance to go back to talk to their divisions to get a sense of how their divisions feel about this, because it would be sort of spur of the moment. And second, it would be requiring them to speak so publicly. Okay, on the record, there's a video camera there, so everybody will be asked to do so publicly. It is my personal opinion. First of all, I think this is a bad idea, just for the record. But I think that if we're going to do this, that it should be, number one, done by the entire faculty, and it should be done anonymously. Because if you do it publicly, it's going to be putting individual senators sitting around this table on the public record in front of video cameras on this particular issue. So that's my thing. I think we should get a second opinion from Michelle Pilati herself. And again, she is the statewide Senate Academic Senate President about whether we can even vote on this today. Okay, please.
I disagree for a couple of reasons. One, I don't feel that the resolution even needs to go to the faculty, because what we're saying is that this body that we represent this body, the Academic Senate, has lost its power and has been overtaken or whatever, if you will. So we are the people that are being pushed around and not getting heard. We represent people, but it's this body that's not being heard. So I think we have every right to state that this body, if we feel this body has lost its power on campus, it is our obligation to say that. And if we're afraid to do that, then we shouldn't be sitting here. I mean, we have to be able to make the easy choices and the hard choices and speak our comments.
I also think that for the purposes of people having to say something on the camera, I'm representing my department. And it's my responsibility to represent my department, whether that's the way I feel or not. And so as the senator, I keep in touch with all of the faculty, and I know their feelings, and I have to vote appropriately. So for somebody to be here and to cast a vote, it's not necessarily, it's not their vote, but it's their vote as a representative.
So there was a motion. Did anybody want to second it?
I second the motion.
Okay. Discussion. Okay, please, Eduardo.
The mere fact that the Senate President, even that you mentioned the word fear for the senators, that speaks volumes as to what's happening on campus. At the last meeting, we had Nancy Rudson speaking of fear. I've been hearing of fear throughout for the past couple of months. And what exactly is it that we're afraid of? So the camera's there, I'm speaking in front of the camera. What is it that I'm afraid of? What is Dr. Rocha going to do? Because they want to evaluate me in the classroom. I don't have a problem with that. I can evaluate me any time. But is the fear because of action that we take here as a committee? Because that is our job, to represent the committee, to do the best thing for the college. And I'm not afraid of doing that. So the mere fact that you say that there is fear among some of us for doing the right thing, all the more reason why we should take this vote.
But can we just stop for a second? So are we discussing taking the vote to take the vote? Okay.
Yes.
So
Put it on the
discussion
agenda.
right now is to take the vote, not to vote after we take the vote.
To put it on the agenda. To put it on the agenda. To put it on the agenda.
Let's discuss this actually. Anybody want to discuss whether we should put this on the table?
That's what needs to be discussed
Yeah,
first.
and whether or not it needs to be on the table today is really what we're talking about.
Or the
because
next meeting.
It could be agendized for
We
our
only have
next
one more
meeting.
meeting.
But the motion's already been made.
Right.
I believe I'm on top. I was just gonna say, so in this case, if I understand what we're doing correctly, is that if we vote in favor of this, it goes on the agenda today as a first read, which would still allow us 2 weeks' time to go back and to consult with the faculty that we represent and get their opinions on it.
Okay.
And in 2 weeks' time, if we decide we do not want to take action on this, it could, we could vote, not vote then.
Is,
Vote to not vote?
Dustin, your concern about how if we don't do this by the rules, administration will just say it's no good.
Right.
Is that along with what she's saying? You think if we even put it on the agenda for today as a first read, not vote on it today, but put it as a first read, do you think there could be legal issues with that as well?
My opinion, based on the week, it's been a really difficult weekend for me. We are putting ourselves at legal risk if we do it, if we vote on it, even if we put on the agenda today. But that's just my opinion. I mean, that's the sensibility. Again, it's coming from the general counsel's office, but I get the sense that they're going to have some legal issues with us doing this today.
Can I clarify that?
Yes.
The process was taken that this was fully legal. It's called Brown Act 54954.2B2. This is called, no, I mean, I don't know if I should read this out loud, but I can assure you that this was completely followed. This item was posted on, first of all, it was emailed to Judy and to have it sent to you all. It didn't get done, but that's okay. That was a secondary point. It was posted publicly outside of the C building. I have a photo of it. Second, it was put on the PCC website so that the public would be able to find it and is aware of it. It was online, it was outside, and it was all done 72 hours before this meeting. It is legal to put this on the agenda if this Senate body decides to do so. Right now, we can vote to put it on the agenda so we can start discussing and so on. And I really resent the fact, I'm sorry, Dustin, I resent the fact that you mentioned the lawyer in here to bring us to fear. Sorry.
Are you calling the question, Melissa?
No, I think there are other people that like to speak.
Okay. Simon.
Yeah, I've got a lot of Brown Act experience, unfortunately. So the section, I just want everyone to be aware that the section means that the 2/3 vote is that the Senate believes that there is a need to address it today. It sounds like if there is a specific procedure that you guys have to follow, that may or may not be the case, and that's going to be up to you to decide. I would say this to any group on campus, that if there are Brown Act issues, they can be fixed at a later meeting. I think I would err on the side of discussing and then bring back. I think that the first read idea is probably the sounder way to go, especially since these things get tricky. We've done one recently, and they do get tricky. But if there are issues, then there are ways that you can correct the action by ratification later on. So I wouldn't worry so much about the Brown Act. I just want to make sure that people understand what the section is that they would be using to do it, because it is a big one.
Marco.
I just want to say, I don't mind that you brought up the lawyer. I kind of thank you for that, because I want to remind everyone, and this is why I think it needs to be done. Fear is used by tyrants to lead. Fear is not a reason not to take action. It's the reason to act.
Jake.
Okay. I'm still teaching here legally for a couple more weeks. And I just want to go back and say, in the dark ages, I was the president of this body. And one of the essential things was the responsibility that we were given, the responsibility for the academic role in this community. And we should always be aware of that, and we should not be afraid for standing up for these principles. And that is our challenge. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't talk to people in your division, but you were elected by them. You were elected by them to have this status and this role. It's just like anyone in Washington that was elected by their body. You have that. And I don't think you should denigrate it. And I don't think it's wise to talk to the administration about what you are going to do in your body, because it should be inclusive within your body. And then you announce it. Sorry.
Could you please tell us what these legal ramifications are that Cooper stated, please?
Want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Get 4 minutes left? Okay, I'm gonna skip over all the legal parts of this. The sections 5494 2B2 is quoted here, and then here's the 3 paragraphs. I'll just read them for the record. The requirements of this provision cannot be met. First, there is no need to take immediate action with regard to the proposed action item. The materials state that the purpose of Mrs. Michelson's motion is so that the resolution can be presented at the Board of Trustees meeting on April 3rd, 2013. The desire of the proponents of the resolution to present it at public comment at the Board of Trustees meeting does not constitute a need to take immediate action as contemplated by the Brown Act. It was determined by the Senate on March 18, 2013 that there was no need to take action on April 1st when it voted to table the matter to April 1st for further discussion only, with full knowledge that the Board of Trustees meeting was scheduled for April 3rd. Moreover, the facts clearly establish that the possibility of an action item came to the attention of the Academic Senate prior to the agenda being posted, and a conscious decision was made not to add the action item in concordance with the Academic Senate bylaws. It has been known for months that the Board of Trustees will be meeting on April 3rd, and the facts above demonstrate that this matter was known to the Academic Senate at least as early as March 18th when it voted to table the item to April 1st for discussion only. Further, the specific request of Ms. McKay to add the item as an agenda, Further, the specific request of Ms. McKay to add the item as an action item was made and unanimously rejected by the Executive Board on March 27th before the agenda was posted on March 28th. The provisions of Government Code 549542B2 therefore cannot be met. The purpose of the Brown Act is to afford notice to the public that an action will be taken at the appointed date and time, so that any person interested in participating in the discussion leading to the vote can do so. As the matter now stands, members of the public have no notice that any action item will be taken and therefore may decline to attend. Any attempt to add the item as an action item at the meeting on April 1st will deprive such interested persons of their right to participate, and here's the key. And such aggrieved persons may take action against the Academic Senate, including seeking to avoid any vote taken in violation of the Brown Act. Yes. Okay. No.
I move that we take the vote to put this on the agenda.
Any second?
We can't, you have to take one motion at a time. So the motion right now is whether we're gonna.
Put it on the agenda. We already have that motion. You can call the question.
So you're calling the question for this motion?
To put it on the agenda.
Now, okay.
There's still the question, to understand
thing.
how to vote. There's still the question. It's just a little question to understand how to vote.
Okay.
Because if you have to explain to the department, you have to say why you voted the way you did.
No, we're just trying to put it on the agenda. Just on the agenda.
I understand.
Talk about it again in a minute.
Yes, to put it on the agenda.
We're going to be voting whether we're going to talk about it.
Can
we put this on the agenda?
It's just to put it on the agenda to vote on it next time. We're not actually voting on it.
But after we put it on the agenda, will there be any discussion?
Yes.
All right. I'll pose my question another time. Okay, all right, Mark.
Another call the question. Is anybody seconding that call? Call the question. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of calling the question? Sorry.
Okay, here's what has to happen. Okay. The first thing you have to determine is whether all senators are here.
Okay, you have to call roll.
Yeah. So if not all senators here are here, then we need a unanimous vote to do this.
When did that ever happen? We've never had everyone.
Okay, yeah, but wait a minute. Two-thirds of the entire. Where does it say it has to be unanimous if everybody
In
is?
the Brown Act, maybe.
Okay, well, show me where it says that.
It's right here under, you want me to read it to you?
Sure.
Okay, so first the immediate action thing, what he just read, right? You got all that?
Whatever.
Okay. The second one is the exception, action may be taken on a non-agenda item, but this requires that the need.
We're not taking
for
action.
meeting. Okay, we got it. A vote for 2/3 of all members, not just those present.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay. Or unanimous if less than 2/3 of the members are present.
We're not taking action.
Okay.
You're not taking action.
So,
Just
2/3
put
are
it on the
here.
agenda.
for clarification, the vote must be 2/3 of the membership, not 2/3 of those present.
2/3 of membership.
That's what I just said.
So, okay, how many total members do we have?
Simon.
I don't know.
Do you see how many members we have total? Hold 1 second. We'll tell you how many senators we have. Not go me. Yeah. That's not including membership.
We want to call roll.
Mr. Chair, how many do you have first? So wait.
Isn't there a roll sheet? Yeah.
We can count from the roll sheet.
Mark,
You can just look at it. Yes, sir.
just for a point of information, is agendizing an item tantamount to taking action? Or
Yes.
is voting on the item tantamount to taking
Both
action?
are taking action.
Really?
You're taking an action. Unless you have a
By-
different
by
interpretation. You could, I mean,
by
maybe
whose
you can interpret
definition?
it differently.
Well, I interpret it differently then.
By Mark.
If I can just,
Let me dismiss this county.
Very much so.
You really want to do it?
Citizens on determination of a two-thirds vote of the members of the legislative body.
Yeah, what a coincidence.
It's on the guy running for president.
I have no comment at this time. No, yeah. Let me disconnect that right now.
Twenty-two have to vote for it.
I disagree because he had enough time to put it on the agenda. He chose not to. That's what I disagree. Right. What you're saying is, I agree. But what I think it should have been.
We are.
22 have to vote for it, for a
Brown
two-tone
Act
thing.
says, upon a determination by a two-thirds vote of the members of the legislative body present at the meeting, or if less than two-thirds of the members are present, meaning if there are two-thirds,
We only need
unanimous
two-thirds of people
vote of
here.
those members, present.
So we first confirmed that we had more than two-thirds.
Okay.
We
All
just
right.
what Mark was saying. And now we can say, if there had been less than, it would have had to be unanimous. But if we have more than two-thirds, now it's just for two-thirds.
Of those
So now that
present.
we've done that, right, now we can,
Can you state the total membership?
33,
And
Okay.
can you state the two-thirds of that?
22.
Okay. And we have more than 22, right? So that's fine.
How many are here?
Do you want me to restate?
Okay,
Yeah, please, restate. Yeah, can I?
You don't need to proceed.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Don't ask me.
You can ask the procedural question.
There's 27 us here.
so if this is an action item on the next agenda, I know we generally are doing a first read and then voting on it the second time, but since we're not voting on this today, does it have to be an action item? Can it be a discussion item and then next time an action
That's what
item?
it was already.
That's what we're all on.
That was a separate item.
I mean, that's just, I mean, as a question.
That's how it was agendized for the day.
Because, I mean, I'm just getting a consensus that I think everyone wants to make sure we can vote
So
on
we
it
need 19.
next week.
19, yeah.
That will be the determination of the
Okay,
executive.
out of 33.
Out of 22.
22.
Or 27, where'd you say, or 27?
Yeah.
My motion is to put this on the agenda, not as an informational item, but to put as an action item for discussion and possible action to follow today. And as it was before, actually, this didn't exist before in this form. Before, it was Yolanda's independent faculty ad hoc committee report, informational item. I think she's withdrawing that, just from what I've heard. And this will be a new item because we need times of essence. But we could vote on it today or not vote on it today. We could vote on it next week. As long as it's on the agenda today, we can discuss it as a first read.
Kate?
Okay. Well, Melissa, just maybe to make life simpler and maybe to clean up the legal issue, is it possible that we would just have this as a discussion item today and then it would be an action item for next week? Or are you asking that we have it, that we actually take a full vote on it today?
Whatever the body decides to do, we
After discussion.
She's just clarifying that it's possible.
That's up to this body now.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're,
Okay.
I want to make it absolutely
According-
possible if we want to vote on it
The Brown Act
today, we vote on it
indicates.
today. If we decide to do it as a first read, we do it next, we vote on it next time.
Okay. Mark?
Oh, Edward was.
Okay, Edward, I'm sorry.
I'd just like to point out that I don't think it was necessary for you to have consulted the lawyer. I
She
mean,
called me.
But it doesn't matter. She represents the administration, not the faculty. You know, so she is on the other side. And for you to accept legal counsel from the opposition, it doesn't make sense. If you really felt necessary to get legal counsel, we should have found someone else.
That's why I'm talking to Michelle Pelosi.
And could you, right, but you consulted them first. If you felt that, we should have consulted her first. So my question is, what was your justification for saying no?
I'm always going to listen to you.
No, but you did not put it on the agenda. You did not put it on the agenda.
We're also off topic and out of order.
You know what, I think, actually, Eduardo, I think he's bringing up a very good point. But I don't think you should chastise him for consulting. He was threatened by their lawyer. Yeah, I mean, the letter's threatening, which leads to the first part of putting this on the agenda. And that is all of those things that she lays out in that threat of action against this board, like the fact that it's not an emergency thing. That's the first step this has to take is this really truly an emergency matter? Now, Michelle, is it Michelle? I'm sorry. Melissa. She laid it out pretty well, her interpretation of why it's an emergency matter. But I think that whatever was that an email?
Yes, it was.
In that email, she makes a pretty good legal argument that it's not an emergency matter. And that's where
That's my concern.
And that's where I think the problem lies. Because
I'm trying to protect this body.
yeah, I mean, it's not like he's asking for legal advice.
I didn't ask for legal advice, which is why I was going to call Michelle.
Does that help? That's very well. Does that help?
Yes.
So
Yes,
to
thank you.
also interject quickly, is we're now at the half-hour mark on this specific public comment.
Call the
And
question.
we have a very full agenda to observe.
Let's call the
As
question.
I know we've got a few more questions. I'm gonna merely ask that we take,
Point of order.
or we can move to extend the time for this agenda item.
Let's take a vote.
Question's been called. Let's just take the vote.
Yep, take the vote.
Want to call roll? I don't get to vote.
Yes. Do you want me to call names or do you?
Let's have a complete read.
Yeah, I think we really need to know exactly what we're
You're not
voting.
voting on the document, you are just voting to vote on the, or to read the
We
document.
want to know exactly what we're voting on.
Put it on the agenda.
We're not voting on it today.
Why don't Melissa tell us exactly what we're voting on?
Again, so that we can start discussing this as a first read. As an official agenda item, I would like to move to put this resolution on the agenda as an item for possible action, for discussion today and possible action today. Possible.
Everybody clear on what the motion is?
Yeah,
Okay.
we got it.
Please go ahead and call roll. Judy?
No, possible means it's possible.
All right,
So we can't call roll until discussion is, okay, Judy goes to call. Oh, we're not voting on the item, we're just voting whether we're going to discuss it today.
Voting for the agenda.
Yeah, my goodness.
Dan Haley,
Yes.
Mark Dodge,
Yes.
Patty Van, Early Deathless,
Yes.
Danny Hammond,
Yes.
Armando, oh, I'm sorry, it's alternate. Thomas Riojas,
Yes.
Deborah Bird,
Yes.
Robert Obenthal,
Yes.
Pat Rose,
Yes.
Marjorie Smith,
Yes.
Kristen Hyatt,
Yes.
Blanca Rodriguez, Terry Stoddard,
Yes.
Andres Borja,
Yes.
Melissa Mitchelson,
Yes.
Dorothy Potter,
Yes.
Pat Peach. Yes. Kathleen Uikawa. Yes. Matthew Dennis,
No.
Katie Rodriguez,
Yes.
Valerie Foster. Yes. Paul Jarrell,
Yes.
Tad Carpenter, Mark Whitwood, Eduardo Pyro,
Yes.
Francis Neon,
Yes.
Derek Milne,
Yes.
Bill Bushko?
Yes.
Renata McKay? Yes. Rod Foster?
Yes.
Okay, so it's on the agenda. Okay.
Wow.
So everyone take a deep breath. Enjoy yourselves.
I need a drink.
With that, we're moving to-
Okay, let's move to the agenda item number 1.
I have a question, though.
About what, I'm sorry?
I don't know what parliamentary term to call this, so help me out. But what I would like to do is move an agenda item, an information item up for discussion before we talk about the IEC committee.
Which item would you like to move to?
I would like to move information item number 2.
Actually, I think that makes perfect sense. So I'll second. I can't second it, please. All in favor of doing item number 2 information item together with the discussion of the fourth read, signify by saying.
No.
I need a second for that.
Before, not together, before.
She just has to move this.
Aye.
Okay, to move it before. Yes. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So this has a 10-minute limit with a possible extension if the Senate so wills. So I'm going to ask Canella to be our timekeeper today. So Marjorie, please, you have the floor.
I have handouts, and I didn't bring them ahead of time, but I figured if it was good enough for Mark Rocha, it's good enough for me to come with handouts.
Hey, Marjorie, just as a side note, I'll give you a 5-minute warning when we're halfway through. Is that cool with
That's
folks so that we can see it?
And what I've done is, here you can put your notes, questions on the front, and then I've included some Post-its if you want to kind of separate the sections in terms of the information that I have there. First of all, my concern with the IEC. First of all, I just want to say I'm not part of any outside committee. I have no affiliation, entanglement, personal gain to get from this. It's just me kind of seeing something that appears to be wrong, and I'm taking my role as a senator to heart. I'd like to thank, I don't remember what the gentleman's name was that said something about the Senate. Where are we? Where are we taking positions? Where's our voice? Because this is what I have been asking for the past 6 months in terms of the Senate, kind of taking our responsibility seriously. The other thing is, it was interesting with the information from the Dustin that you brought from the attorney, voicing the concern that if we don't go by the rules, then we are at risk legally. Because I think partly what's going on with the IEC is against the rules. And while I'm not saying vote down the committee, vote down this, you're not doing good work, what I'm saying is that it is not in compliance with the policies and rules. It's not in compliance with our policy 2000. It's not in compliance with Title 5. It's not in compliance with AB 1725. It's not in compliance with the Ed Code. It's not in compliance with the standards that come from the State Academic Senate. I sent out the information. I included links because I didn't want anyone to, as you can tell by my emails, I am a stickler for reading things carefully and following them as they're stated. So I put the link just in case anyone was concerned or thought that maybe I was misusing or misinterpreting. I put the link so everybody could read that information, and I sent that out a while ago, and we kind of talked about it. So what I have on the sheet that everybody had, it's the sheet that's highlighted, talking about the policy, and I'm not strictly talking about the policy, but I did want to show the evolution. It's this policy that's highlighted. Okay. The policy that was approved said that the IEC could evaluate program reviews. Then on the policy that we were presented with on February 25th, the IEC has decided that what they want to do is evaluate programs. Now, in the next version of it, they want to evaluate program effectiveness. I think that with each revision, it's getting more and more invasive in terms of of its authority, it's overstepping its authority based on what this original policy granted them the authority to do. My concern with that is that in giving away this, this authority to do program review, that we are again weakening the Senate. Because what happens is, this is a committee that I'm not sure who the committee answers to. I have asked both leaders on the committee, why can't you be part of the Senate? I've never gotten a solid answer, so I don't know, but I've asked that. So that's just kind of my opening. Let me go through my packet very quickly. Okay, so those are my concerns. That's all written out here. Second page, it says academic and professional manners means the following policy development and implementation. Number 9 says processes for program review. This is policy 2000. This is also on the Senate website saying as the Senate, this is our role to perform this task and kind of oversee this task. Okay. So I understand, and I wanted everybody to understand that this issue with the IEC is part of academic and professional matters. On the back of that, there's a letter that says, Dear PCC family, this is a letter from Dr. Profumo that after the accreditation team came and we got the warning, this is the letter that she wrote to the faculty. It's dated July 13, 2009. If you want to go on the website, under accreditation, it says President Profumo's letter. But in that, what she identifies is, and it's highlighted, because this is an academic and professional manner, I will ask that our academic senate work with deans, vice presidents, IPRO, and our other shared governance representatives to develop a consistent set of data to be used going forward in all programs and services. So it is identified that this is something that we should be doing. On the next page, I went back on the Senate board meetings November 22nd, 2010. It's kind of saying, here's what we're doing with we're going to evaluate program reviews. That's what Jim Bickley, I don't know who that is, but that's the name that comes up. And Cynthia Olivo, they came to the Senate and they kind of explained this. Why I think that this is a little, it's a little disturbing to me, particularly when we keep getting reassured that having faculty members makes the IEC faculty driven, is on the second to last paragraph, the thing that I have underlined. Division deans may be contacted for division representative referrals. So they're asking deans to appoint faculty members. They're asking administrators to appoint faculty members to this committee. A little bit lower, it says division deans may be contacted with names or suggestions for faculty representatives to be appointed. IEC is a watchdog committee to see that the programs are consistent with the master plan. Strong faculty presence is needed along with a balance which will include overlap between those serving on the Senate, CNI, and INC. This issue of overlap is an issue that we talked about at the beginning of the year when we were saying it's the same name on all the same committees. How can you have a representative voice when you've got overlap with people making decisions and things like that? That's what's telling me, wait a minute, this IEC we need to have it where somebody's watching what's going on and how they're setting things up. On the next letter, it says IEC is ready to go. They're going to evaluate, the one purpose is to evaluate program performance and make recommendations for improvement. And they're going to make recommendations to the board, the president, the curriculum instruction, resource allocation. They want us as a Senate to give away our authority to set up a process for program review so they can then report to the administration. Never coming back to the Senate, never addressing issues in terms of faculty. That's another concern for me. I'm going quickly because I got the hand. So,
yeah, I was thinking the same.
On the next page is a revised process for program review. This is posted on the Institutional Effectiveness webpage. This was never vetted through
the Senate. What they did is Jim Bickley came and said, here's the mission statement for the IEC, and here's how they're going to do program review. So this is the IEC setting up the process for program review, which is clearly part of the 10+1 that we get from all of the policies that I've mentioned before. So one more time, go back. All right. When I look at the next one on the information sheet for the campus that the IEC sent out to everyone, the IEC has decided that its role is to perform program review. It says this is what we do. It's talking about particular things that we need to do, read program reviews, research, analyze data that are relevant to the program. It appears to me that the information that they're saying, types of information, success, retention, enrollment, completion data, what they're saying is then effectiveness is based on numbers, not the pedagogy, not what we're doing in the classroom. They've really kind of taken what we're doing out of it and listing these as the things that they want to list. The other thing when they're talking about curriculum, course offerings, labor market data, trends, learning outcomes, why that may be applicable to the CTE, that's not applicable to instructional programs. And I'm also concerned with what expertise informs their research and their analysis. Just in me doing this, it has taken up more of my time than I could imagine. Okay,
And
so
that's perfect for 10 minutes.
Well done.
Okay, so I guess let's move to the fourth read of the IEC policy. Do I have a motion to put this on the floor for consideration of a vote? Any motion to do so? I'm sorry? Matt motion, second? Second. Okay. We're voting on 2560. So it's now been put on the floor for a vote. Now we have, no, I said vote. I said vote. Okay, so.
What about discussion? Wait.
That was my motion. Is that what you agreed to? Who was the first?
We're putting it on the table.
On the table for a vote. Are you going to wait first, that or no?
Yeah, because discussion happens before we vote.
So you're putting on the floor for
Yeah.
a vote? Okay, and second? Second, okay, so it's on the floor for a vote. Okay, now we have 20 minutes. I'm asking for the debate. Okay? So let me just give, if you can keep your remarks close, I want to give them enough time to debate. So if I could have either Cynthia or Sheila just let us know what's different before we take our discussion and vote.
I'm not being railroaded.
This is a debate or discussion?
This is discussion with a possible with a vote at the end.
With a possible vote.
Does everyone have copies of the policy with the track changes?
Yes.
Is the last draft?
Do you have a parliamentary question?
I just want to know what the date of the last draft is.
I said yeah. Cynthia, what was the date of this draft?
27.
Well, I don't know if I have the right copy.
It's the 27th, it's watermarked.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so please, Cynthia,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Yes, today we have here other members of the IEC. You could just introduce yourselves.
I'm Stephanie Fleming from the Performing and Communication Arts Division. Sheila Rose, co-chair from Languages.
Mr. Govin, librarian.
Sonia Valentine, Natural Sciences.
Cynthia Limbo, I have members in the audience too.
I'm Mara Long, Media Services Library.
Okay, Terry. And Terry from kinesiology. And, okay, so you have the draft in front of you. What we did was we took the feedback from the majority of the group who, over the past 3 occasions that we've been invited here to speak about this policy, we took into consideration your requests and to clarify membership. And so we're going to pass out this handout that clarifies the membership of the committee. So the changes that we've made to the policy since the first time we came to visit include clarifying membership to ensure that we have more faculty representation than other groups. We've also taken into consideration the feedback we got from the group about clearing up the policy language in regards to why we're doing the work that we do in programming. So we do this because, one, for compliance purposes, but two, because we want to make sure that we have this culture of inquiry on our campus, where people want to look at their programs to determine their effectiveness and how we're helping students.
I think in the actual policy, it said the IEC evaluates program reviews was the original policy language, and then it changed to the IEC evaluates programs in one draft that we brought before the Academic Senate, and with feedback from the Academic Senate, we changed that to the IEC evaluates program effectiveness in the context of the college's mission.
How would you characterize the difference in the wording between evaluates programs and evaluates program effectiveness?
Andres, can you speak up a little bit? We can't hear you at this
I was
end.
just asking Sheila to explain how she understands the difference in the wording here between evaluates programs and evaluates program effectiveness.
I think that's a good question.
Do you want to look at that? Oh, sure, I can, if you don't, do you mind? There were a couple of things. Well, first of all, so we've gone through a 3-year cycle with the current policy wording, and we realized that the mission kind of at the beginning wasn't really truly describing the work that we were doing. So that was part of our being reflected in that mission statement. And so when we came in, we were saying that we should, evaluate program. So if you're evaluating program review, okay, the type of feedback that we can give is very, very limited. It's limited to things like your formatting. It's limited to if you're addressing certain things, but not necessarily any sort of improvement items can we give that type of feedback for. Because we really, truly, in the feedback that we've been given from this body as well, is we want to be about improvement. And so we were very limited by that. And so when we said originally evaluates programs, and then we received the feedback from this body, and we took that and we reflected on that. And so we said program effectiveness in the context of. And so we're talking about the ability for this program to serve students, and then we are guided on what type of feedback we can give for improvement only. And so that's really what the focus was, and that's why the language went the way that it did.
Also, Andre, in order to fulfill our charge of making recommendations to the college as a whole, just reviewing program reviews does not give us enough information to be able to make those effective recommendations. So we really need to be looking at the program's effectiveness in order to make
Yeah, I understand. I was actually asking what's the difference between evaluates programs versus evaluates program effectiveness.
Well, sure.
So, no, I understand very clearly, the original wording, program reviews, but then you mentioned in one of the previous drafts, reviews was struck out, right, and it was only evaluates programs. Now you have added evaluates program effectiveness. So I was basically asking about the difference between programs and program effectiveness.
Just to give it in context of the program that I work with, so we were, when we took that feedback back from this body, and we were thinking about that, and I'm thinking about that in terms of my program. And if somebody says, I'm going to evaluate your program, that opens it up to things like, you could tell me what classes I need to teach, you could tell me how I should be teaching. You're evaluating my whole program. But if you evaluate program effectiveness, you're looking at how we, the faculty members who are the experts in these fields, how the choices that we've made are serving students, and you can give me feedback as to whether or not you think that that's something that can be improved upon, or if it's also something that could be identified as a best practice, which has been a very large focus of our conversation. So that's how I view it as a faculty member who's coming from a program.
Dan has had it for a while. Yeah, so please, Dan.
All right, I think you pretty much illustrated or described what our major problem is here. You're taking on not just review of the reviews, but you're taking on review of the entire program and its effectiveness. Now, right now, it's under the purview of the Academic Senate. It's part of 10+1. We don't understand why we should just hand that off to you to let you do all the program reviews here.
Can I respond to that?
Sheila,
so, because something is
in the 10+1 does not mean it is exclusively under the purview of the academic senate. So for example, there's, in the 9+1 for associated students, there are overlapping issues, which shows that some things such as resource allocation are at a college-wide level rather than at just an academic senate level.
But it is relied primarily, okay, for
Wait,
those
wait,
10.
wait, we call it on, right?
Sorry.
So, Darren was next. I'm sorry to add your, we'll put you down, Danny, next to you.
I spend a lot of my time talking about the IEC with people. I've talked with people on the IEC committee. I've talked with Eduardo. I've talked with Martha, and that's only this afternoon. And I think, from what I understand from talking to my colleagues in my division that I represent, as well as others, that the major sticking point really seems to be the relationship between the IEC as a body and this Senate as a body. And I wonder if we can't reach some sort of resolution on that relationship, which will solve many of the problems that have been raised by Marjorie and others who have devoted so much time to this issue. I know Dustin some time ago suggested that somebody who was a chair of the IEC be added to the executive committee to be part of this body. I don't know if that's a possible compromise solution. I don't know if it's structurally possible for the IEC to be a subcommittee of the Senate that answers directly to us, or perhaps answers to us as well as other bodies on campus. But I wonder if the discussion can't move in the direction of addressing this seemingly very important issue, and perhaps share with us your opinions on this problem.
Well, first I would say that the IEC has been an example of shared governance working, where you have faculty, staff, management, and students working together to look at programs with a holistic view. So since we have a very well-functioning committee, I don't see that there would be reason to change that. Another point is that we're addressing the policy revision. The policy, the original, if we don't vote on this, the original policy stands, which is that this is a college-wide committee. So I think the discussion about where this body falls doesn't directly address the policy revision at all. It's addressing the original policy, which is, as I understand it, not up for discussion here. And
Robert, then Marjorie.
Thank you. Cynthia and Sheila, I appreciate the work you put in over the last 3 years, and it takes a lot of time and effort to put together a proposal of this magnitude. If I can try to articulate one reason I would not be able to vote for the policy would relate, say, to Section 2, letter E. If I understand correctly from that statement, review the appropriateness of program learning outcomes. If I were to be on the IEC committee, I would be charged with reviewing the appropriateness of program learning outcomes in which I have no expertise. I'm not a mathematician. I don't have a PhD or MA in social studies or dance. Anybody can tell who knows me, I'm not, dance is not my forte. And so I think it seemed that this is the reason why I cannot vote for this policy, because it asks people without expertise in the different academic disciplines to make judgments about the appropriateness of program learning outcomes in those disciplines. And my philosophy of education, personally, is that such decisions reside properly with the people who do have that expertise. And so, for that reason, I've tried to articulate. I cannot vote for the policy, the IC, as it exists in this document.
So, to respond to that, we have a member who's been on the committee from its inception. That's it.
Yeah, so in each case, the faculty are, if we're talking about academic program, the faculty are the ones that do the review. And then
drawing on groups throughout campus, it's a way to just to bring input from different areas. So it's not, I mean, the original review comes from the faculty themselves if we're talking about the program review. Another thing I want to say too is that it's not just academic programs. And so there are other programs that are reviewed, and so to have it come under the academic senate, that wouldn't make sense if we're talking about other kinds of.
So Robert, if I could also say the program learning outcomes, you define them. When you author your program review, you define those. We do not define your learning outcomes. We simply provide feedback to the program learning outcomes that you provide within your program review.
So we have a 4-page rubric which we spent a lot of time revising to make sure that faculty or other areas that are writing program reviews really know what the criteria that's being looked at. And so for program learning outcomes, we're looking for things like measurability. So we're not determining the content or what is taught in those courses. We're merely saying, you know, is this program learning outcome written in a way that it could be measured? We give that kind of feedback.
If I could respond briefly, in my opinion, to engage in the review of the appropriateness of program learning outcomes for other disciplines, I would need to get an MA in that discipline, teach a couple years in it, and then I would feel like, okay, I would be somebody who can speak to that. And I don't foresee getting an MA and teaching a couple years in every discipline that would come before, the IEC. The measurability, I would suggest, is a discipline-specific type of thing. In English, we ask how many meters, metrical feet, are in an iambic pentameter. In geometry, you ask how many degrees are in a triangle. And so there are discipline-specific notions of measurability or number. So if the IEC is interested in measurability, my impression is that number becomes abstracted from the discipline-specific logics and dynamics and bodies of knowledge, so that number becomes a kind of, it loses its grounding in the different disciplines.
Well, Robert, I would suggest the model of the Curriculum and Instruction Committee. So faculty are voting on whether to decide if a course should be added in other areas, and they're basing that on the information provided by the faculty members in that area. So I think if you would argue that faculty or other people from outside of an area couldn't, comment on outcomes, I think you would make the same comment that they couldn't also provide feedback on curriculum.
Well, the C&I already exists then to be a body to review and sign off on curricular changes. Then my understanding of C&I is that the votes defer the default, usual procedure is that the people in those academic specialties, if they make a proposal to C&I, the presumption is they are making that proposal out of their expertise, and that absent some glaring anomaly, it would be approved. Whereas the structure of this committee, in my impression of it, weighs the decision in different manners, and so that a large administrative component is a factor in how the IEC will function in such a way that again, just this is my basic reason I would vote for the policy. In a way that
Robert, I'm gonna interject.
Sorry, we have a long line.
Well, I'm gonna do two things. One is you hit your 10-minute mark and this discussion.
Thanks.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make sure everybody gets their
Yeah.
time. I'm also
Sounds
saying
good.
that because we have 3 minutes left in this agenda item. So far, I have Marjorie, Danny, Valerie, Paul, Rod, Katie, Dan, and Terry, who would also all like to have a comment. This is one of those moments that you might do in your classroom, which is if it's okay with folks who haven't spoken, maybe if you've spoken, this might be a nice time to let others who haven't had their voice heard on this item. I'm just asking this as a moment of kindness to other folks. So I know Marjorie is next up, but I'm wondering if Marjorie would be okay if maybe we move to somebody who hasn't spoken yet, like Danny hasn't spoken to this item yet, or things like that.
Could you also note that some of us signed papers at the beginning?
Actually, Jane, why don't you do yours now since I forgot, actually, I just realized. Why don't you do your public comment? This is going to be pretty positive.
Okay, I know
Please.
I'm interloping again, but I think what you're missing is the real issue that's at stake here. Marjorie made some very good comments, but has anyone talked to the State Academic Senate about this move? The State Academic says, all right, it shall be the policy of the district to rely primarily upon the advice and judgment of the Academic Senate in all 11 areas identified by the California Code of Regulations. This is one of the 11 areas. It also says, and the recommendations of the Senate will normally be accepted, and only in exceptional circumstances and for compelling reasons will the recommendations not be accepted. If the recommendation is not accepted, the board or its designee upon request of the Academic Senate shall promptly communicate its resolution in writing. Now, one of the things that we're forgetting is the work on AB 1725 was not hasty. I can tell you that. It was not, let's form a committee and let's make a big decision in a quick manner. And I know you've been working on this for years. But the people, the faculty organization, administration organizations, and legislators who worked on the document were convinced that the move from K through 12 organization to academic and administration sharing of responsibilities was a move for the community college system to give more autonomy to the actual group that disseminated through cooperative planning and teaching the information needed by students in each disciplinary area, including the program reviews of the college. This above theory was accepted by the state in 1988. We did not write our document that put it together with the Senate here for several years afterwards. Okay, so what we're saying is that we're not paying attention to the erosion. Once you lose one of your 11 areas of concern, you are diluting your power in this school. You are diluting the charge that's been made by the state and should be taken up locally by your Senate. And even though there may be 50% of the people that are faculty on this committee, it is not a committee of the Senate if the Senate does not control it and does not have the final say. That is the purview of the Senate. Have you talked to accreditation? This is part of the accreditation process. What will they say if they find that one of the 11 areas of the Senate purview has been taken away? Those are the things that I think you need to be thinking about, not what decision is making by this committee, but where is the Senate in the purview of all of this? Because again, as I said earlier, this is part of your designated responsibility. It was given to you many years ago, and it should be heeded. It's not something to be tossed lightly away, because once you toss it away and go back to a K through 12 model, because this was supposed to take us away from the top-down government to a government of participation, once you do that, you have an erosion. You have an erosion. And once you have an erosion, it's very hard to patch up the erosion. And I think you've got to think seriously, not about what the committee decides to do or not do, but how it reflects and is controlled by the Academic Senate.
And then Simon, you had a public comment too, please.
Yeah, I do. So associated students, oh, sorry, I need to speak up a little bit. So when we talk about the areas of shared governance, and program review is one of our 9+1s as well. And this goes back to it's what I said at public comment at the very beginning. While you were talking about erosion of your responsibilities, I'm having to safeguard what traditionally hasn't been given to us in the first place and try to obtain it for the associated students in the way that it's meant to be obtained. I use BRAC as a good example of this, where the budget is formulated by a group made of academic senate, associated students, classified senate, and union groups and so on and so forth. And those representations come forward. Primarily, I think, mainly faculty, probably because we primarily rely upon elements. And then that budget goes up. But budget is in your 10+1 and it's in our 9+1. And so this is the area where we get to cooperate. And I firmly believe that in cooperation through a college group, that is how we make that happen. I do think that there is a lot of faculty representation. I don't think there's enough student representation, but I'll go with it for now. I guess my point is that I don't want to be in a situation where I'm having to get separate reports flown up through AS, through Academic Senate, through everywhere else, and then when it comes to AS, it's meaningless because the Academic Senate has taken charge. There have been several issues that the Academic Senate has taken up this year alone, where I believe they fall directly under the 9+1 of AS. But I have not really been able to comment on them until they get to the Board of Trustees level, where it's a fait accompli anyway. And so this is what I'm trying to avoid, is that idea of when the Academic Senate says one thing, none of the other groups can comment anymore, because it's done, because it's moved forward. And I believe that IEC, reviewing program reviews, primarily driven by faculty, will still maintain your 10+1 while strengthening my 9+1 and my organization's 9+1. Without that, I don't think the shared governance means anything. We're simply transferring from administration to one other individual group. And I would say is that with the Academic Senate, that you've had different task force and committees, and students haven't been included on them. Not all of them, but some. And these are issues that auditing policy is a very good example of that, where AS was not able to comment. And we still have concerns, which I will now have to present probably at the board level, which is not the right place for it because it's too late. So I would hope that we can look at this not in the framework of Academic Senate is losing something, but rather the Academic Senate is participating along with its partners in shared governance, the AS, the classifier, in a proportional representative way to ensure that everyone's rights are respected.
Okay. Let's move back to our time. We're going to definitely have to extend time if the citizens want to do so. But we're going to continue for our 20 minutes. Marjorie, you were next.
Okay, I just want to make a correction. The 9+1 doesn't give you the processes for program review. I looked it up. It doesn't give the students and it doesn't give the classified and the processes for program review. And that might be the difference between the 9 and the 10. I'm looking at policy 2000.
I'm not referring to policy 2000, I'm sorry, I'm referring to Title 5, which is section 5102.3.7.
Okay, I'm just looking at our policy. That's one thing that we could pull up quickly. The other thing is to respond to the other things. I have a two-part question and then comments. Okay. So you said that you weren't able to fulfill your charge. Your charge from whom? And then you said you were assessing effectiveness. Effectiveness based on what?
Consistent data sets. And
so numbers.
No, that is one piece of it, but if you look at our rubric, to be exemplary, we want quantitative and qualitative.
Because the other thing on the rubric that I saw, where there's one of the things that says consistent with the practices of the associations and so how is someone going to know? Like the NCTE, I even say that, some of you we don't even know what that is. So how would you know what the practices of those kind of professional associations and things like that? And just Googling it 10 minutes before is not expertise. And so that's kind of my concern. So if you say effectiveness based on those data sets, and then the charge, fulfill the charge from whom?
Well, in order to be accredited, we have to start with consistent data sets.
So that was ACCJC.
That was a direct recommendation from our previous accreditation process, but we provide those as a starting point, but of course, program review authors can request other kinds of data, and like we said, we also extremely value qualitative
Okay, and then my response to that is, if you fulfill the charge from ACCJC, in the presentation that you said you admitted that you're moving beyond compliance with the charge that you have been, it said we're going beyond compliance, we're doing these particular things, and that's what I'm saying is a little bit troublesome, the desire to move beyond compliance. And I think that, and I'm not saying it's bad what you're trying to do, but I think in being ambitious in what you're trying to do, that's creating a challenge someplace else. And then one more thing before they tell me I don't have anything. If you keep reading through my packet, I did put suggestions, and I did suggestions based on, and I know now you say that's not our model, but that's what the email said to me. It said to go look at the model at Santa Monica. And that's what, I have the email. It said, look at what they're doing. And so I did, and they do have a process where they are doing program review. They have developed a program review committee that is separate from the IEC, but it is a subcommittee of the Senate. And within that, and this is addressing someone else's question about the other programs, they have made 3 divisions: instructional programs, these are student services programs, so they are making distinctions in what they're doing in terms of their program review. So that is something that can be done. And then the other thing that I suggested is I went back, I found a program that ACCJC said, we commend you for doing this, so it's meeting that charge. And that's what they're doing at Santa Barbara City College. And that's a college that has also divided it. And what they're doing, and Simon, this will make you feel better, they're letting those groups, that the programs affect those groups, they are part of that program review process. So there is a way to do what you're doing, and there is a way that we can be consistent with our own policy and with state policies too. But I'm just saying that if we approve, oh, my last thing, that you said if we don't approve the revisions, we go back to the original. And okay, so we go back to the original where you review our program reviews. And I know I said one more thing. And I looked on the minutes that you have posted, and there haven't been any minutes since January 25th. But I looked at the programs that you're reviewing, and of those that you're reviewing, only 8% have had challenges where you have to send it back. So that's saying 92% of the programs are doing what they should do. So we don't need you to be extremely we don't need you to be more invasive. Maybe what we need this to do is to go back to what the original policy said, and that you just review them and review the program reviews. I don't see the need for something that is more invasive based on what policies say and based on really the results that you're getting from what you're reviewing already.
Okay, if I ask you to endorse the Senate, we've reached our 2-minute limit. It does say on the agenda that the will of the Senate, we can extend it. So moved. Sorry? Second?
Second.
How long are you asking for it to be extended by? 20 minutes. 20 more minutes. Okay, any second to that?
Second.
Second. All in favor of extending the time by 20 minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have 20 more minutes. We're setting it for 20. By the way, that's the will of the Senate. Okay, please. So I guess our next person.
Justin, can I
you got a chance to
respond?
respond?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please. So first of all, the language of going beyond compliance, that's, let's just talk about I think we just have different interpretations of the meaning. When we think going beyond compliance, we're not talking about going beyond Title V regulations or going beyond the power that's given to us. What we mean by going beyond compliance is making the process meaningful for us and making it a process that's as effective as possible for our institution. That's what was intended by that language, just as a clarification. Talk a little bit about Santa Monica College. We've looked at that model. Santa Monica College was actually given a recommendation because they lack a link between their program review and their planning process, and that was also on the forefront of our thinking when we were when we were talking about these revisions. We've looked at Santa Barbara City College as well. Their system is set up extremely differently. So we have a separate BRAC, and their system is set up so that their resource allocation is actually in their program review. It's very, very different from the system that we have set up here. We would have to make huge systematic changes. And also, if you look at their commendation isn't necessarily about their entirety of their program review process. The commendation, the language from the letter of ACCJC specifically says that they're being commended for the link between program review and resource allocation. And that's something that's very different than just program
But what I'm
effectiveness.
saying is we don't have to do, but I'm saying that there are ways to do the things that we want to do. And we kind of talked about, well, how can we get everything? I think that maybe what we need to slow down and see is, well, how can we get everything? If you're saying there's no need to be part of the Senate, we want to be separate for whatever reason, but we're saying that part of that, part of our 10+1 is to oversee those processes for program review. It doesn't say that we're the only one. That's what I'm saying that it does say that we oversee them. But if we create this policy, and Dustin, you pointed this out to me, we create a mutual agreement where we give you that authority.
Well, my understanding is when we were created as a committee, the co-chairs were Cynthia and Jim Bickley, who was the current president of the Academic Senate. So the committee was very much created and the policy was very much written with the input of the Academic Senate and also with the approval of the Academic Senate at that time. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I think we're still at the level where we're talking about the original policy and not the revision, and I did want to address the idea of resource allocation. One of the reasons we're bringing forward this policy revision is to include departments and grants also go through program review, and this is a necessary next step in order to eventually connect resource allocation with program review, which we are required to do in order for accreditation purposes. And without all of these areas that are given funding through resource allocation being part of our policy, then we're not going to be able to reach that goal.
So Simon has a
Simon? Yeah.
I just wanted to correct the correction, Marjorie. It may not say the specific words program review, but the for the purposes of the second, this is repeated in Policy 2000 and Title V. Significant effect on students includes, and I won't read them all, curriculum development, courses or programs which would be initiated or discontinued, processes for institutional planning and budget development, and standards and policies regarding student preparation and success, all of which are directly linked to the original and the revisions of the policy.
So I was saying the processes for what it says, art is the processes by which we go by those things. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There are things saying that you can have impact this
That's beyond. Okay, Mark, you have a question?
I think we should just call the question. It sounds like we're beating a dead horse.
Is there a
I
second
don't
for
hear
that?
anyone really debating.
No.
It's just people
Second?
talking against it. So.
There's a second. Okay, we need a majority to call the question. Okay, so all in favor of calling the question signify by, actually raise your hand. Please call the question. Let me count.
Might as well call it a question.
Any opposed to calling the question? Okay, we'll call the question. So now I'm going to ask you to call roll.
What are we voting?
We're voting on this policy.
Okay, so it's.
We are voting up or down on 25.
Okay, yes means you approve the policy, no means no. No.
I mean, excuse me, when you say, when we vote no, are we voting against the policy altogether, or are we voting for revisions?
Yes, we're voting it for it as is.
Up or down, so it's up or down, it's dead or alive?
Dead or alive.
Okay.
Okay.
Procedural question.
Procedural question.
Katie and then Melissa.
Katie? Katie?
Voting on the policy.
Is there any way that you have
This-
a very quick recess?
Before we vote?
Yes.
Okay, I think we deserve a 5-minute recess. 5-minute recess call.
This line will remain in the document with only the omission of voting procedures.
Just voting. Just voting.
Just voting, right, just voting. Sorry, to clarify that. So that's a friendly amendment proposed on behalf of our students, and I believe that the IDC has already accepted that.
So we have to vote on the friendly amendment first. Okay, so there's a second for that amendment?
I second it.
Okay. Okay, all in favor of the amendment, signify by saying aye. The friendly amendment from the students, it's a change of law. They've accepted it as a friendly amendment. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna ask Judy to call roll. Please go ahead.
Pinella,
Yes.
Dan Haley,
No.
Mark Dodge.
Catherine.
We have several people who aren't here. Shall we?
What can we vote then?
We have to vote now.
Francis is also.
We have a quorum? Francis in the bathroom still.
With a 5-minute break, we have a
They went to the restroom.
Okay.
He has well, Francis had difficulty walking because he's on a cane, so we should allow him extra time.
If he comes back in, we'll call his name.
Okay.
Early Douglas,
No.
Danny Hammond,
Also bathroom. Older men, you know.
Ouch.
For counseling, yes.
Deborah Bird. Yes. Robert Overtile,
No.
Pat Rose.
No.
Marjorie Smith.
I'm not sure what we're voting on.
To approve the revisions.
I
think you can
The
vote.
revisions.
We don't need to ask her.
I couldn't be sure.
Wait a minute. Are we voting on a friendly amendment?
No.
Friendly
revisions.
amendments we don't vote on, we only vote on, we're actually voting on the policy.
The revisions.
Yeah. If it's a friendly amendment and it's accepted, we just move forward.
So Marjorie?
No.
Okay.
Okay, Kristen Hyatt.
Can I sustain?
You can abstain.
Abstain.
Monica Rodriguez. Terry Stoddard.
Yes.
Andres Borja.
He's absent.
Lachlan Prasad. Melissa Mitchelson. No. Michelson, forgive me. Dorothy Potter.
Yes.
Pat Peach.
No.
Kathleen Uritala. Yes. Matthew Jimenez.
Yes.
Katie Rodriguez. Yes. Valerie Foster. Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Yes. Thank you. Paul Jarrell.
Yes.
Ted. Mark Whitworth.
Yes.
Eduardo Cairo.
No.
Francis Mian.
What should we voting on?
Whether we should fly to the moon. The policy.
April Fool's.
The policy.
Okay, to approve the policy?
Yes.
Of the existing IE? Okay, no.
Derek Miller.
No.
Joe Bushko.
Abstain.
Yolanda McKay.
No.
Rod Foster.
Just kidding.
Rob? No. Sorry.
I was gone when you called my name.
Yes. Oh yeah, Danny's in there.
Danny
It's a
Hammond.
no.
I got it. You want to vote on it? I have 11 yeas, 13 nays, and 2 abstentions. Is that correct, Judy?
That's what I got.
That's what you got?
It's a no.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to confirm it.
There's a proxy vote.
We're so quiet in here.
Like, come on, man, just get it over with.
It's never this quiet.
I know.
Okay, so the motion fails.
It's kind of scary.
Something's about to happen.
So what's the next step?
It's done.
So what do we do now? We're just back to the original?
Yeah.
So they can propose a new one
Right,
at some point?
That's exactly what's gonna happen, yeah. Make a necessary correction, then we're good to go, I think.
Okay, I hope the next couple items will be faster. Harry cannot be here. So we've got all the CNI NCN numbers, and we don't have the authority in this body to change those numbers. So as I said at the last meeting, I'd like at our next meeting for us as a body to approve those. So does anybody want to discuss that, or do you want me just to move it to the next meeting as a second read?
I'd just like to make a comment about it.
Sure.
The recommended NCNs are the ones that we would be affirming.
Right.
The current practice actually is no longer the current practice. That was the current practice prior to last fall. The current practice now is the 82, 83 numbers that Danny has on that sheet, which in probably 90% of the cases are higher than what's listed as the current practice.
Yeah, that's very true.
So there are actually 4 numbers that exist, and they all 4 could be different. There's the 82, 83 number that the district's hanging their hat on currently.
Right.
There is the WebCMS number, maximum class size, that was listed in WebCMS. There's current practice, which by current practice means what has been happening really for about the past decade. Prior to last fall, which was, so fall 2012, which was our first semester at the recommended NCN that came through CNI. This spring, we're now back to my high school days, the 82, 83 numbers. So, just to be clear.
Yeah, so.
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
other people have hand up first.
Yes, please.
I was just gonna say, I just wanna make sure that we support the correct numbers, however we get that it's the numbers that CNI decided on that were in place that fall 2012.
It's the green column.
Right.
Any further? Yes, Dan.
So can we get a list of the 82, 83 number? Do you have the 82, 83?
This is all I have. This is what Carrie gave me. All of this document.
I have them for all of them, but or the ones that, I mean, half these classes didn't even exist in 82, 83, so they've just made up numbers for that, I guess. I don't know.
Yes, Pat.
This is clarification, but since math is not listed at all in here, are we to assume, or at least in my copy, are we to assume that we can look on this whole sheet and the 2 classes given for math are kind of indicative of what math is?
Yeah, all I did, my sheet, I just want to be real clear on my sheet. I had a spreadsheet that had the 82, 83 numbers and these. So it had one more column than this one's showing. And I just picked out samples of ones. So mine is just a sample. I think that's kind of what you were saying. But that's not all the classes there. I just got enough to fill one sheet.
So this is yours, Danny?
Yeah.
That's from me.
Okay.
It's from a sheet like that, but it also had the 82, 83 numbers on it. This one doesn't.
If I
Okay.
can clarify here, the numbers I think that we have here are the numbers that got changed to the CNI process in the lab. Because people would come from the divisions and they would present. That's why I think math didn't request any changes. Maybe that's why they're not here. That's what I'm assuming. That
But-
here. These are the ones that we changed in English.
But to be fair, math, the numbers for math are different in the 82, 83 list than they were if we were going by past practice or current practice or
Yeah.
whatever the list here.
And that's what the administration is
Right.
saying. They're basing everything on, and they're talking about the 20% above that.
I don't know the
That's why that's an
particulars.
important
but-
number.
Yeah, I don't know the particulars, but maybe Math 3 could have been at 40, 45, who knows, right? In 82, 83. I don't know, but that's what we would have to really look to. But that doesn't really matter. So we want to know that when we go by the recommended NCN here, that it's for math would have been what current practice is, I guess, or past practice.
They were identical.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, Rod, please.
Just a quick note, this is not a complete set of the numbers. Visual Arts had some changes that don't appear here. I don't know what else doesn't appear here.
PCA isn't on here at all.
So there's quite a few things that are missing from this. So if we were to vote on this, we wouldn't be voting on the complete information.
Okay.
I would just say that, I mean, I don't know that it needs to get printed out, but if we could just get the complete set of numbers, so that could be our resolution.
Would people be willing to vote on something they've only seen for the first time at the next meeting, though, and we got the complete numbers for next time?
Well, the NCNs are online.
Well, in WebCS you can get, in WebCMS you can get what's listed as the maximum class size, but I don't think, that might just be what, I don't know if that's actually what's considered an NCN or not.
I would just tend to say, I think this is too important to not get through before school's out, so if there's any way that we could do this, because I think it's important that the academic senate take a stand on this issue. And we don't just keep carrying on the next year.
Especially these numbers in particular.
Yeah, because like you're saying, math is on, your math's not on here.
Any further? Yes.
Would it be possible for the Academic Senate, for the Executive Committee to obtain all the complete classes numbers, put them on our website and give us, that would give us, say for example you do it next week, that would give us at least a whole week to look at it, then we can vote.
We were emailed this information.
I'm saying for those people that think they want to see that complete listing.
This hasn't reached the department.
Right, the one that we received through our email.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good to go.
We have it? It is on the folder?
But has anyone verified that all classes are there? That
I can verify that all classes.
that all, okay.
What division are
So you can ask our people, you can ask the social sciences tomorrow to verify that the classes are there.
Yeah. Would you forward it to them? Do we get it to
So
them?
I will
No,
try to
but we
get,
can,
I think you
yeah.
said we have the entire list, so this will come as a voting item at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Certainly let your division to know.
Yeah.
Again, we can't change these numbers here, that's CNI's prerogative, we certainly go to sort of back.
Forward it to them, and then if we don't hear from them, that means.
But let me know if there's anything that they have.
There's a meeting tomorrow.
Outside.
Yeah, there's a meeting tomorrow.
Are you presenting?
Okay, I'm going to turn it
Yeah,
over to
but
Nella
we should
for the
announce it.
calendar.
Yes,
meeting.
yes.
Let's forward it and they should
Right.
look at it.
Yes.
Just electronics, okay, but
Statement from
let's
the
talk
Senate that
face
we
to
approve
face.
the, like, what would the statement read?
We would basically say that we are approving these numbers at the next meeting. That's what we're basically saying by approving this. So that is a statement in itself.
Right, so it's like just affirming like any other policy, we're accepting this as the policy. Does that make sense? So these numbers, once they've gone through CNI, that would stand.
So Penelope, please.
So the next thing is we're working to get our, let's be clear about this, our academic senate calendar committee. So this is not the shared governance portion, this is merely the charge for a group of faculty. So you were sent and was passed out as a handout, the charge for the academic senate calendar committee, and it reads, this senate committee will make recommendations to the academic senate about the academic calendar. These recommendations will be based on evidence and discussion regarding student success and learning, professional development, and organizational development. And this would be the charge of that committee.
Any discussion? Yes, please.
I'm unclear what that means by organizational development.
This might be, for example, let's say we would like to have a day that's devoted to having larger campus-wide policy discussions, like a day around forums. Our academic senate has the purview to go and say, hey, administration, we would like an additional day to talk about specific policy issues, or if we're doing anything new for, say, like within our program certificates or majors, we may want to have special days that are dedicated to that. So let me take English, for example, because they've got a really well-run division. And one of the things that they have is a retreat, right? Am I English folks, right? You guys have like a divisional retreat that you guys do above and beyond, right? Like that's essentially something that you do on your own accord. That's not part of our contract, right? So this may be a time where rather than being outside of our contract, maybe we ask so that all divisions have that same luxury of having a retreat to say, hey, maybe within your division you have time to do some more development of what your division, department, program, certificate does.
Will that mean changing the contract?
It doesn't necessarily have to be, but this is the calendar, as Danny has mentioned earlier, is one of those things where sometimes there are some things that come from the union first and then is brought to academic senate and academic senate says yay. Or vice versa, where academic senate says, hey, we need some support, here's what we need, union, we need you to go negotiate so that we get the wages and working conditions, right? So it's one of those times we're dependent on the lead. Does that make sense, Melissa? Any other discussion?
Yes.
I think I completely misunderstood then. I thought when I saw this on the agenda, I thought that what we're going to be doing is resurrecting the academic senate calendar committee that Ed Martinez gave up. That's not what this is all about then, correct?
This is.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a charge, so this is the new proposed charge. And one of the things, so that they have clear guidelines about what's in the purview, so it clearly falls under the 10+1, sorry, I've been listening to science. So it falls under the 10+1 without overstepping into the shared governance. Does that make sense? So this is written really specifically with the 10+1 in mind, so it can stay under academic senate.
And how does it differ from what existed?
That, I don't know what happened to that mission statement, right?
Okay.
The thing that I will say is that this incorporates other aspects of pedagogy that we have not discussed, so specifically organizational development and professional development, which we've heard from across divisions are things that need to be addressed, and we don't have a structure to do that necessarily in meaningful ways regarding the calendar. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Paul?
I wonder if it's possible to avoid a little bit of trauma in the future here, if we can send a message. I mean, I think it's independent of what the charge is, but let the administration know that we do have a calendar committee in the Academic Senate, and we have not turned over any kind of control of the calendar to the FA. Is that possible? How are we going to let the because we hear that every day, it seems, and that's becoming an issue. I mean, we need a way to let them know that this is something we haven't given up.
We have to probably form an MOU on that, I guess.
Right. And so I think there would be two processes. One is to approve this charge so this committee can get functioning. The second thing would be to create and sign an MOU between the union, saying that the union is specifically negotiating on behalf of specific academic senate recommendations, which we haven't had, as you know.
But that's been common practice.
It's been common practice, but even again, if we go back and cite some of the concerns, like the fact that there is no written clarity.
Right.
Right, and that's exactly what we're bickering over, is like he said, she said, and we know that's not an effective method of debate. So what we could do is use this committee to form and use as a guidelines to form an MOU with the union, and as long as the MOU, the union also agrees that they're willing to give up some negotiating rights to the academic senate, we could move forward.
Okay.
I saw Rod's hand and then Melissa's. Rod, okay. Yeah.
Legally, the FA nor the Senate is allowed to cede any issue to the other party. There's case laws, the Redwood College case, that delineates what is in the union's jurisdiction, what's in the Senate's jurisdiction, and we legally can't cross lines.
Right, and one of the things that many people do, as you know, Rod, and that's where I'm talking about this MOU being a specific tactic, is that many schools that have separate unions and academic senates clearly write out and post in both places some guidelines around what is their cultural policy. So for example, at some schools, the calendar is under the purview clearly of academic senate, and the academic senate takes the lead. And at other schools, it's clearly under the purview of the union, and the union takes the lead. We don't have any kind of document that clarifies who's taking the lead on these overlap issues, right? We don't have anything like that. So Rod is correct that there is this moment, but there are about 6 issues that have overlap that most schools sign an MOU to validate who goes first on the issue and then who goes second. So let's take another issue, for example, professional development, right? Traditionally is led by the Senate, and then the union works to support the pedagogy behind that. Does that make sense? Whereas some schools say, hey, union, you take the lead on the calendar, and academic senate will support you in that process. Any further? So Melissa,
It mentions professional development here. How would this committee handle the current professional development? Isn't there a professional development committee?
This is different from the professional development committee. So for example, the professional development committee might look at things like who's going to go to conferences, and what conferences they go to, but they don't have the ear of the administration to say how many, like for example, Flex Day is a program that is sponsored by the state, right? So I want to be clear about that, because you can have up to 12 flex days where the state will pay your faculty to come and be professionally developed, right? Currently, we only have 1. Most schools have 5 or 6, okay? That is something that has been in our, at PCC's culture, has been negotiated primarily through the union first, right? And this may be one of those moments when we say, hey, under academic senate, in order to do math redesign, do English, like a stretch, right? Acceleration, right? These are all things that we need time to do, and those are pedagogically based, like really to make our students successful. And that should come from the Senate to say, hey, listen, and our Senate calendar committee might be able to say, hey, we should have extra days at the beginning or at the end of the semester. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't then the Academic Senate Calendar Committee be able to extend the dates of our current annual calendar and then put in a flex day?
Only, and that's that moment where we could make a recommendation, and we could say to, and I'm pointing at you, Danny, because you're the lead negotiator, right? So I get to harass that into the table and be like, hey guys, right? We've done some research and we've looked across the campus. Everybody's trying to do curriculum redesign because we all want our students out in 2 to 3 years, and we're trying to make our programs better. We need a couple of days outside of our lecture period, right, where we can work together. We want it, can you make that happen? And here's why we need to hear all the pedagogical reasons. Then it's their job to go and say, hey, we've heard from the Academic Senate loud and clear, here's what we need to make sure that our students are successful. And then the union would take it. Does that make sense?
Couldn't departments decide when to do that?
Well,
If they
again,
want to do it on a Saturday in the middle of November?
well, if that were something that the calendar committee made a recommendation for, one might, but one might also look at things that help, for example, based on, I know everybody loves Flex Day, right? And I say that because Flex Day has currently been negotiated through the calendar in the middle of the semester, and everybody has complained not about participating in meaningful professional development activities. The concern is that it happens in the middle of a semester and it takes away and throws off our courses, our syllabus, especially for those of us who are teaching 5 or 6 days a week, and some of us in this room are, right? So it throws off our teaching schedule, and now one class is getting less instruction than another, than say if it were outside of an academic semester. And so this calendar committee could actually be dealing with very specific pedagogical needs. It might also make other recommendations. So for example, when we have short courses, we could make policy recommendations around what really is an acceptable moment around how long or how short a course could be, those kinds of basic elements. Does that make sense, Melissa? Okay.
All right, so this will be up for a vote the next meeting. Okay, if I can indulge the Senate, because we have to have like an actual ballot for the first one. If we could just move down to number 2 of the executive committee recommendations. Thank you to Eduardo for bringing this to my attention. I guess I have your name on my brain. It should be Ricardo Castillo. Okay.
I was going to vote for him.
So
he's like my brother.
Dad.
That guy's in Charlotte, I'm sure of it.
So, for people who I'm sorry, there was I think Yolanda came forward for it. I asked you if you were okay, because you had 3 people. I'm going to put up number 2 as the 3 people who'd like to be on the hiring committee for the assistant director for admissions and records. So I have a motion to bring that forward. So, Penelope first, Katie second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving these 3 individuals signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, third, I'm going to sort of piggyback on my president's report. There's some good news here in the midst of all of this. I did talk to Bobby Abram last week, and I've already conveyed this over to Deborah Bronstein, who is our scholarships committee's chair. The foundation is going to augment our scholarship funding for this year by $15,000 thereabouts. In addition to this $4,000 that we come out of our own account. So we are actually going to be able to give 12 students awards, including some of them who are going to be getting $2,000 each.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
So what I'm asking, thank you Bobby for that. And so what we would like to do, and I've already sort of talked to Dan about this, is we always have a certain amount of our permanent restricted account that can be used for scholarships. I spoke to Bobby, this year it's $4,000. So I need the Senate today to approve that that $4,000 will be divided into 4 $1,000 awards for 4 of our award-winning students. Do I have a motion to that effect? Thank you, Yolanda. Second, Katie. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving this $4,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now we go back to number 1. Did you have a ballot? Or? Do we have a ballot? I don't think we have a ballot. Okay, so we're going to have to do this a little bit old-fashioned way. Okay, let me sort of read. There's 5 individuals who came forward to be on the police sergeant hiring committee. I don't have full statements from all of them, but I just want to read you a little bit about each one of them. And then we're going to sort of have another little short break, like probably three minutes, where people can turn in their votes, and then we'll continue from the agenda from there.
So you're asking people to
Police sergeant,
to write on a separate.
Right, I'm going to take a piece of scratch paper, binder paper.
You don't have that, so
These
it's
are
very
people who
technical.
Yeah, I didn't know any of them,
Okay,
so
so
they're
by
trying
going
to, I was trying to figure out what they
names,
do.
let me just read you about each one of these individuals. Okay,
The exception of
Paul Wilkinson is from
cheese,
computer science, and he'd like you to know that he was a reserve officer and a member of the NTA Transit Police. Kite Sarkupia, I might be saying her name wrong, is from Child Development. Charlene Potter from Languages comes from a family of law enforcement. Ted Fimbris is our head football coach, and David Evans is from our business and computer tech program. So we'd like you to vote for up to 3 of those individuals and turn in your votes to us in front, and we'll continue our meeting in 5 minutes. Yes. Up to 3. We'll make it 5 minutes.
There we go.
Okay, I don't get to break my first tie. All right, so the 3 that were approved with 21 votes, Charlene Potter, with 13 votes, Paul Wilkinson, and with 11 votes, Kite Sarkupia. So those were the 3 that the Senate approved.
Should have voted for
Yes.
Are we at the reports from executive committee right now?
I'm sorry?
Are we doing reports from executive committee? So, I was wondering when the agenda item that we voted on is supposed to come. It's an action item, and I was assuming that the action items were at the top.
Right. Well, we do the 2 professional development days, and we'll come to that?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so number 4 has been discussed in Kaplan for quite a long time. And I have to say this is one of my personal agenda items as I sort of finish up my term. It's something that I've been wanting to do for some time. I believe that, like most of the other colleges that I've worked at, it's really important for us to have some professional development days before the year starts in August. I always found it very helpful when I was at Fullerton, and when I was at LA Valley College, and when I was at UC Riverside for 10 years. And so we've had discussions in Kaplan for several meetings, clarifying, making sure exactly what the administration perspective on this is. And so this language, by the way, also, I think that I got an email from the calendar committee chair, I'm losing her name right now, Krista Walter, asking us to do this, to help the calendar committee be able to actually advocate that the Senate has approved 2 professional development days before the fall semester begins. The one thing that we were working on, the reason why we haven't brought it before you yet is because, of course, my personal perspective is I wouldn't bring this forward if it was going to be taken out of days of instruction. I just don't think that's right for our students, and I wouldn't want that for my students to have to lose 3 days. So we've been working and talking about that, and so that's why the language here says, recommend 2 professional development days in the week before fall semester begins, that would be in August, with stipends to be negotiated for attendance. Okay, and we've received, I think that the other executive members can verify that the administration is willing to do so. Okay, and that means that basically people who show up will get stipends, and those who don't won't. And that's how it was done at LA Valley College. So there was one time as an adjunct I couldn't make it, so I didn't get stuck there. And so that's sort of, because there's been some issues about whether this needs to be negotiated or not. And so that's why when Krista sent the email saying that she was basically okay with this, and she wanted us to talk about this. So we are bringing it forward to you, as I talk about number 4 only, that we recommend 2 professional development days in the week before fall semester begins, again, with stipends to be paid, including for adjuncts, to come to these days. So again, I'm willing to sort of open up to discussion. Matt, please.
Does this take out the during the semester professional development day?
That is
or
still
would this
being
be in
discussed.
addition to that?
That is a separate issue. We haven't discussed that issue.
Okay.
It may or may not.
Okay.
Okay, Mark, you got anything?
I was wondering what's the deal with number 5 then?
That's Penelope's going to talk about that. Okay, Eduardo. As far as it was the executive committee decided to separate the issue. Yeah. Okay.
Two questions. First one, in regard to the stipend, how is that to be calculated? And second, who's going to determine exactly what will occur during the professional development days?
Those are to be determined. They're probably very similar to how we did the one back in September. There was a committee that got together and planned the day. That was run by the Academic Senate, by the way. That's a lot.
From my, oh, right, I mean, from my perspective, I prefer to vote yay or nay once I know what's going to happen on those professional development days.
That I honestly, I cannot answer in terms of how it's going to be planned yet, because we
Right.
have to approve them first before we can actually get a committee together.
Although, if I can, if it's okay.
Sure.
One of the things, basic moments is if we take at other schools where they have kind of like a kickoff day, where they give you like, you might have a time to also get like updated policies and procedures from HR, those kinds of moments where it is other things. So for example, if there's any paperwork that's changed, where there could be a full forum of folks, some day might be dedicated to that. It's like a welcome day. Hey folks, welcome back from the summer. Here's the policy updates, changes. Here's a chance for you to work within your departments and divisions, those kinds of things. And that's one of the things that the administration has said that they would like to see happen. So I can't say that with 100% clarity, but given procedural changes on campus, particularly in your division, since you guys have just gotten into a squirrely pickle with Humanities 3, it might be helpful to have like an update around how paperwork is filed, right?
Okay, actually, Rod, please first.
I have a little problem with initiating this change in the calendar for the fall semester beginning in August. Right now, the district has declared impasse with the faculty association. We don't really have any guarantee we can get to the bargaining table on any issue before August. So I'd be in favor of this if we were to propose it for the following year, when I assume we will have gotten back to the table with the district. But if the district won't talk to us, we can't talk about a new policy, let alone talk about the issues that are pending. So I just don't think that we have any certainty about our ability to set the working conditions for this August.
Okay.
I just say, one, this would be absolutely voluntary too, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then the other thing is that we are just making a recommendation, then if like we didn't get back to negotiations, then the recommendation doesn't expire, right? It just means it would not happen this year and could happen in the future, is that?
It's a recommendation, not a, we can only make a recommendation.
Okay.
Okay, Pat.
That was really my observation too. So Rod, to me, even if negotiations can't provide for this year, we're going on record as just saying we're recommending this.
If that's understood, because we really are currently not able to engage the district in negotiations.
And it's also written without, it just says before the fall semester and before, or at the end of spring semester. So there's not a date on here too. So it's not operationalized as such.
All right.
Pat.
To whom is the recommendation being made?
The calendar committee. That was what Krista recommended.
To me.
To all of us.
To the shared governments calendar.
The regular, the larger.
No, I got which one.
The
other calendar.
But likewise, it coming from the full body, I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
But it coming from the full body is now something we can also negotiate in CAPM as an additional support to representatives from the calendar committee. So having it come from our full body is also an additional leverage that we might have to negotiate these.
Dan.
Again, I don't want to speak for Krista, but I'm pretty sure what she wanted to know is whether this body had a recommendation. I don't think she was recommending both of these, which it sounded like, and maybe I misunderstood you, but I don't believe she said she supported these two. I'm not trying to oppose it, but my understanding was she just wanted to know whether the Academic Senate had a proposal regarding professional development days so that they could calendar them. But maybe I misunderstood her. But
In my email, the email conversation that we had, it seemed as though two things were happening. One, she was like, is there a formal recommendation? And two, there was a moment of advocacy around we should get something on the table now so that we can start to have meaningful discussions in the calendar committee so that what's happening. Again, she did not recommend a number of days, but she really recommended that we have this conversation. We put this in here as a meaningful number as the executive committee to say this seems reasonable and not outside of the bounds of what would be helpful for faculty.
I'm just curious, I don't see any potential downfall for making this recommendation? Is there, am I missing something? What could go wrong?
To be honest with you,
Don't worry, you won't get pregnant.
I think on this specific issue, I don't foresee this not being implemented. And if there is a reason, I will be the first person to come back and say, I got bamboozled.
I just mean, like Katie was saying, it's optional, and it would be good to have some faculty development since we don't have any conference money anymore. I don't know what harm could come from it.
I wonder if we could recommend them before winter. I guess that's a no.
Okay, Dan's calling the question. Any second to that?
Yes.
Okay, are you calling 4 to 5 or just 4?
4.
Okay, the 4 is called. Who's the second? I'm sorry, just for the record. Okay, Deborah. Okay. 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 I think we've had our discussion pretty much already. All in favor of recommending 2 professional development days in the week before fall semester begins with stipends to be negotiated for attendance, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
What? One opposed?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And abstain. Okay,
So
one.
I'm sorry, it's 2 abstentions. I
2
saw
abstentions,
Marjorie.
3 abstentions. Okay. One opposed, 3 abstentions.
They did. There was a motion. Dan
Yeah,
made the
just
motion.
making sure. Dan called the question.
Just
making sure. Okay, Penelope, take up number 5, please.
So the reason we split these up was to give folks the idea behind, we didn't want them to be lumped together so that you felt like you had to vote for all 4 days or no days whatsoever. But given the way that we're starting to move, and this will lead into my vice president's report, to be really honest with you, we all know that there's some concerns, and Danny can back me up on this because he sits on BRAC with me, to know that we're having issues with integrated planning. And this is not news to us, particularly those of us who've been concerned about the financial and resource allocation on campus. Most schools function in a 2-year operationalized process, meaning that within each year you have like these mini cycles and then you have these long cycles. So you're looking at data across multiple years in order to plan for the next few years. Does that make sense? And when we say that, we're planning in terms of how many sections we're going to advocate for, how many faculty members we might need, student growth, job changes. For example, I'm in performing communication arts, so moving into new buildings, things like that, being on a 2-year cycle. In addition, that should be happening on a plan, like a program plan. What are we doing across our majors, certificates, programs over 2 years? Program review is also encouraging that we have time to do this. For those of you who participated in program review, you know it is a lengthy process. And so, for example, I'll take my division. In order to really do a meaningful program review to make sure that our faculty is assessing and teaching the right SLOs, what's supposed to happen is a norming session where we sit together as a faculty, we watch a group of speeches, we go through a rubric together, we discuss what we're doing, and then it's actually a time where you can think of it like as an intellectual playtime, or you can say like, what else could we do? What kinds of curriculum could we do that would change this, that would help this, that are gonna help our students? Now, English faculty in their division has made it mandatory that you kind of do some of these kinds of activities during their retreat, but not all of our divisions have the time or resources, particularly for those of us in the arts where people are not just teachers, they're also performing, sculpting, getting shows up, doing all the things that they need to do. Having a dedicated time to be able to review a semester can be very hard. And I can see my folks who have to deal with people who have second jobs nodding and smiling, right? The idea being we would have these 2 times we would have a time at the end of the year to be able to review what worked over the last year, to do some of these norming sessions, and to be able to plan for what would happen for next year, what could be correct or fixed for next year. So that's why we separated it out, so that you have an option to say, here are 2 days before, here are 2 days after, but I'm giving you the rationale why we might want to have 2 days at the end of an academic year in terms of moving forward. And notice it's going to help our students and our program review, program planning processes.
Any discussion of this item? Yes, just want to clarify, these would also be optional? Yes. Any further discussion? Yes.
Is there any concern that if we suggest both of them, that administration then would get to choose which ones we get to have or not, or?
I have no reason to believe that that would not be the case. Currently, these I think would be supported.
Yes. all indications that we've had that they will be fully supported.
Currently, this is, I think, this is possible because we have that week in between from the end of spring to the beginning of summer, or extended. But if there is a change where the calendar committee decides that we're not going to have that week in between, what will happen to these 2 days?
Well, this would be, and notice this is one of the reasons why having now our own academic calendar committee might recommend and say, hey folks, we understand you've made this change, but look at, I might argue that these days before and after are integral to us being able to manage our jobs. One of the things that we've heard, especially throughout this IEC discussion, is it's labor intensive, it's hard to coordinate, and you guys have seen trying to get to committees, meetings on campus, some of this stuff can be knocked out in a day, but it's just getting everybody in one room at one time in one place to be able to do that. So to go back to that moment is we could make this recommendation to our academic calendar committee, right? That can go and share it with shared governance to say, hey, this is what we need for student success. I've noticed it keeps it under the pedagogical reasons. This is not necessarily about us being anything else but student-centered.
Yes, please.
Would there be a way for certain, I don't know, certain faculty, certain departments to participate in this, or will it be open to all? I mean, would we have to apply? Is this like a grant?
Optional.
It's optional.
No, but if we want to participate, is there a way? I mean, so basically, the professional development committee decides to have the professional development day, and then we can, as faculty, individual members, we can opt to participate in that or not.
You got it. And if you opt, we'll now have this recommendation that you would get stipended above your regular pay.
But if a department would like to do something specific within their department, how does that get?
We have had, at least using the last Flex Day as a model, we allowed, there was that space, the committee sat down and said, here, we're gonna organize a bunch of activities so you can go and do your activities, but if you're gonna go and do something else, just let us know where it is and if you need help. So for example, math faculty has been doing this massive redesign, as you know, and they've been having different people come and speak in order to change and adapt to their curriculum. This might be a time where they say, hey, we're gonna have so-and-so come to talk to us during this time period.
So, if I understand right, so say for example within the history department, if we decide that there's a certain set of books that we'd like to review and discuss during this day, we can allocate that time?
Assuming that what happened last time is a model, right? So there was a kind of set of core curriculum where we asked people to go through and, hey, can you come to do these things? And then in the afternoon, right, there were a couple of options. You could go attend another workshop, or you could work within your department, or for some of us, if we're doing like pathways models or interdisciplinary models, you might work with your other interdisciplinary folks to meet and plan what was going to happen.
But can an entire day be spent only on this rather than having to go through these other events in the morning?
My response, I can't give you the answer to that because I think part of it is that we're still going to go through committee and processing around that. And also then that's one more reason that I would say that having additional days allows us the flexibility to be able to do that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So.
Great. Seeing no further, does anybody want to make a motion to bring this to?
Motion approved.
Okay, Matt first, any second? Early? Okay, so all those in favor of recommending 2 professional development days in the week after spring semester ends with stipends to be negotiated for attendance, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa.
Abstentions. So Yolanda, Melissa, and Marjorie.
By the way, the previous parliamentarian advised me not to ask for abstentions, which is why I haven't been doing that. Again, people are free to ask. Okay, so you have the floor, Melissa.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I just wanted to talk about the resolution that was emailed to everybody on Thursday. It's a 3-page document. No, if you don't have the handout in front of you, it's just up at the table. According to the Academic Senate bylaws, I just wanted to remind everybody that the purpose of this body is to, 1, represent the district's faculty as required by state regulations in negotiations with the Board of Trustees or its designee in order to reach mutual agreement on all policies and procedures involving academic and professional matters as outlined in Title V, and another one of the bylaws is strengthen the role that faculty plays in the district's governance processes. For these reasons, this resolution has been brought to you today to be a draft of the Senate's own matter, and so that President Hamby or a delegation from the Senate may take it to the Board of Trustees either on Wednesday coming up or a subsequent Board of Trustees meeting. The board, even after both the students and faculty's vote of no confidence, continued to stand by and still fully support President Rocha. Even more troubling are the administration's claims in the press that the vote of no confidence is related to union contract and salary issues. None of the points on this resolution deal with our labor contract or salary. They all fall under the Senate's purview, and linking the vote of no confidence to the contract issues diminishes or dismisses what the vote of no confidence was really about and violations of shared governance. Can we as senators legitimately not let the Board of Trustees know where we stand as a faculty body that speaks for shared governance and ignore what the PCC faculty members have already affirmed? Given what is happening to shared governance at PCC and that summer break is right around the corner, time is of essence. Can we legitimately not take a stand on these obstructions to shared governance and pedagogy, which the Academic Senate is supposed to stand for? The absence of our vote on this campus-wide issue can be construed as our acquiescence to, disinterest in, or even approval of what is happening up to shared governance. So what you have before you is a draft taken from the vote of no confidence ballot that includes only pedagogical and governance issues on this campus. I won't read the main bullets, but they relate to violating regulations in the spirit of shared governance, disrupting the efficiency and collegiality on campus, perpetuating distrust and intimidation through ethically questionable practices. We have had 2 polls, 1 faculty ballot initiative to inform us today. And the PCC Board of Trustees, in keeping with accreditation standards, holds President Rocha accountable for the operations of the district. Finally, President Rocha is accountable for the chaotic operations and hostile climate within the district. So therefore, be it resolved that this Senate has no confidence in the administration to carry out its basic duties, maintain a healthy shared governance system, orchestrate major changes responsibly, realize the goals and mission of the PCC district, and avoid unnecessary litigation from disgruntled constituent groups and employees, and provide leadership to the campus community. It's pretty full. We're not fulfilling our duties as outlined in our bylaws if we don't take a clear stand, and now's the time. The students are looking to us, the community is looking to us, the board is waiting to hear from us. The Academic Senate is precisely where votes of no confidence should originate. So that's what I had to say on this topic, and I don't know if I have to make a motion to approve this, or?
No, we have discussion.
Yes, discuss.
So, I have a moment of clarity usually around things like this. This often, when we do things like this, as you've seen, it comes from committee first, right? And we would have a committee check on it, right?
I have a quick question about that, because I just noticed there's a resolution here, where we go, a 1-page resolution on learning.
Professional learning, right?
Professional learning.
So, but that's not my question, so before you answer it, Melissa, can I finish my point? Which is that moment of because this isn't coming from a committee, then what we would need to do is, this would be where you would probably hear amendments to this out loud, which means we're now gonna go through a group editing session around this document. Now that being said, it's also 6 o'clock, and we've been here for 3 hours. And I know that there are other information items that also are timely and need to go through this process.
Now, this has been emailed to everybody on Thursday, and it was Easter weekend, Passover, and whatnot. This could be a first read. I mean, I don't know, whatever the Senate wants to do today.
Matt, please.
Well, the first bullet point, the wording is actually incorrect. The district's governing board must consult collegially by relying primarily on the advice of judgment. There's an or there. And it's on the Academic Senate's webpage. And so I would say that even the first bullet needs to be cleaned up. But given time, I just moved the table.
Right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, move the table. That's a non-debatable. All in favor of tabling this?
Just read it.
Put it on for 2 weeks.
So
Put it
that
on
we would
the
bring it to the
agenda.
next meeting.
What can we do
Just
to
for
be
clarification, what is?
We could go through
Open
the
this
point
up
by
again.
point editing process that I've seen this body give every document that's been put before it, rather than rubber stamping what's been put before it.
Mike, can I make a friendly amendment to your motion? Matt?
Let me hear it.
Totally, right. So might I say, let's move to table this, while in the meantime sending any edits to Melissa to add in, so with a new clean copy.
I would love to get
I
all
accept that.
edits and put them in a document. Will that be considered the second read then?
My only moment there is Eduardo has made it very clear, he will not vote on any resolution.
He makes exceptions.
Not a clean final copy. So I'm saying this because I know that we'll already have a couple of people who've also stood by Eduardo in this moment, saying they refuse to vote on anything that is a sloppy
But we went ahead and did it
amendment.
anyway, though.
Right.
But we went ahead this year and did it anyway,
And as did he, so I'm merely pointing out, like.
But within my statement, what I also said is that if you were to, we have 2 weeks. If we can make these corrections and give it to you within a week, that would give us a whole week to look at a cleaned up version.
We only have one more meeting, correct?
There's only one meeting.
I think it's important, given the state of the campus, this is the reason that we put this on the ballot, was that it does seem an emergency, right? That was the whole reason that we voted to actually put it as an agenda item, that we really have the opportunity to have it as an action item before we have summer break, or extended spring break.
Okay, Kathleen?
I would like the clean copy to be available, like, within a week, because I want to ask my division how they want to vote for it, because it's not an overwhelmingly, I've already done kind of a straw poll, and it's not overwhelming, so I would want them to see what they're voting on. So.
But this is not your.
This is not the division.
This
is us.
I think Katie, did you have a comment? I saw your hand.
Katie, Pat, and Melissa.
Okay, Pat?
I have a big question that I've been wrestling with, frankly, for days. And one is, if I was expected to come here and vote representing my division, I think that's a major issue for me, because every single faculty member, all full-time faculty members, have already had a right to express their own individual response to this, and that's all been recorded, and so forth. So the only way that I want to vote on anything is if it's just this group, as a group, without feeling like we have to go back and get our
Because
division.
this is a resolution from this body.
I am not totally clear that all of us have an agreement, or even know when we vote, am I just voting myself as a person who sits around this table and this group is trying to make a statement, or am I supposed to be getting data from my division? I think this is an important issue.
Yes, this is not meant, that's why this is separate from Yolanda's informational item. It's not having to do with our department. Unfortunately, we have to divide it. We are senators. We're taking a stand like the Associated Students have done. So they did not poll their students. They took a stand as a body.
But that's different, Melissa. It's very different between what happened with the students and what's happening with us as faculty. The students were not polled ahead of time. Their representative group got together and made the decision and issued their statement in the name of themselves as officers and representatives of the Associated Students. We're the reverse. The faculty has already been polled. Everybody who wanted to participated in the vote. So it's the flip for us. That's all.
Since I was brought up, since AS was brought up, so the AS is a representative democracy, kind of like the academic senate. So when we took the vote of no confidence, it was on behalf of the Associated Students of Pasadena City College. And the Associated Students of Pasadena City College are all credit and non-credit students enrolled at PCC. We weren't able to poll all of them because there are 26,000 of them, and I don't get paid full time to do this, and neither does anyone. In fact, I actually have to take more classes to be able to have the privilege of representing. So as a representative democracy, we don't represent divisions in the way that senators do. And there are student senates that do that. The AS doesn't. We simply have officer positions that run an executive board that is charged with representing all of the students. So we tried to open our process as much as possible. We took 3 to 4 weeks on it. We had it very publicized. Any student who was able, and we did have a lot, would come in and offer their opinions, and then we had to move forward knowing 2 things. That one, yes, we were a group of 12 students who have been, but we've also been elected by the student body to make these decisions on behalf of our group. What the Academic Senate, I think, needs to decide is whether it feels in the same way that its representation of its divisions is enough that they can simply vote the way in a representative democracy that you would as a representative, or if you do want to make that distinction. I think for AS it was more representative than the executive board alone, but that's because of the way that the executive board is charged with functioning, and the Academic Senate has a little bit of a different way of functioning, I believe.
I just want to clarify, because now everything is foggy in my head. We want this resolution, what we're saying is the 17, 18 people sitting here, we're going to make a decision, and we're going to say that represents the Senate, not the faculty. We're saying that the Senate needs to take a stand. And we as senators say we're going to vote on this is the stand that the Senate wants to take. And if we do that, because the faculty, like you're saying, they already have made a decision, so I'm not sure that we need to take it back to them and say, is this okay? Because they've already done. Because this is almost like a separate kind of thing. You've had your vote, and then as a Senate, you want to have something where we're taking a stand also. So it would make sense that we could, because we all see this and we're going to send the edits, and if we get it in a week, that we can look it over and we can vote on it the next time, because we don't have to consult.
It's about the strength of our group.
Paul, hold on. So it's me, and then Yolanda, and then you.
Yeah, that's how I'm understanding what.
Well, I think that actually, Marjorie, what I'm hearing trying to be, like, from this side, is that I'm actually hearing a debate around whether this resolution should be representative of the divisions that we represent, or should we just have it be representative of the room. What I'm hearing is that there are some senators, just from what I've heard based on this critique, is some senators don't necessarily feel comfortable because they feel as though they are representing, they're merely a vessel for what their division wants. Whereas what I'm hearing you guys say is, we are supposed to kind of work backwards. We are taking the lead for our division. And I think that right now what I'm hearing is that people are taking the lead. No, I'm just telling you that what voices I'm hearing in the room is trying to, I think what I'm hearing is we're trying to decide whether or not we believe the Senate should take the lead and pull our divisions along, or do we feel like our divisions have elected us to move forward? And I think that that's.
I don't think that's what I'm We're discussing this. The motion was to table this. We're discussing it.
Technically, that's supposed to be not, I've been letting it happen, but technically, the motion to table was supposed to be.
And it was said,
But we, this is what.
the motion follows
Yeah, but we, our departments.
Okay, the motion was to table it, and give edits, I think was the friendly amendment, within a week. Accept the amendment, okay? Let's just vote on that. Okay, all in favor, we're voting to table it and send edits to Melissa.
What will happen after that? That's what I don't understand.
We went off topic and we were out of order.
I guess means the discussion can continue, and no means that we move on to the next stuff on the agenda.
No, I think she's saying that, can we vote on it? What you want to know is then, can we vote on it the next time?
That's my decision.
Will it be your decision?
I'm gonna hang myself.
I think that's
Again, as with all editing process, it can be brought forward and it can be tabled again, right? You know what I mean? Luckily for us, the next agenda should be fairly light, but I think that what I've heard to reinforce the motion is we're moving to table it for a week. We will send edits to Melissa specifically, whether it's on behalf of your division or individual. You'll send them to Melissa, right, by next,
By Friday.
by Friday.
And I will get them out to whom?
Give it to Judy, and then she will disseminate it.
Now you're assuming that you're assuming it's going to be tabled.
We should take this vote here.
Let's take this vote.
Well, no, because I was clarifying the amendment.
What, the problem.
Does that make sense? So clarifying within the next week so that it can be sent out. With that, let's call the question.
What the problem is that if we table it for our next meeting, there's no guarantee that it's going to be put on the agenda. Am I correct?
That's my call, yeah.
It's a shame we spend more time talking about 2 days at the end of the semester.
Yeah, it is a shame.
Well, we haven't tabled.
Well, the motion's on the floor. All those in favor of tabling?
Just say he won't bring it up.
If you want to
I know,
continue
that's
the
what a
debate,
vote is.
decide you vote against the
Let's
table.
vote.
It's not debatable, we need to take that vote.
I didn't get one suggestion from any of you, Matt included. He had it this Thursday. He said bullet number 1 is no good. That's all I got. So how
Doesn't matter, there's a motion on the table.
There's a motion to non-discussion.
Don't vote. Brought something to me already.
So, we're calling a question to table or not, if you're voting
Table or
yes,
not to table, that's
means we're
the question.
tabling for 2 weeks. No means the discussion moves.
Okay, all in favor of tabling signify by saying, or raise your hand. You're in favor of table? Okay, I don't get to vote by names. And all opposed? I got to, okay, I think it's like we're going to continue debating. Okay.
Well, what happened? Did we table it? No, we didn't table it. So now they're gonna, nobody's talking, so, I mean, the problem is by tabling, we're not gonna bring it up. So the only thing, we need to have a vote today. Yeah.
Wait a minute, Danny.
Yeah, we have to make a motion to a vote, because it's just,
Yes.
He won't put it on the
no, he won't, yeah.
I think there's a problem at issue here in that there is an inherent ambiguity about this vote. And I think unless a vote actually originated directly through a Senate process, then it will only perpetuate that ambiguity. I also, and I'm not sure about procedure here, but I am very, very concerned that a vote that takes place outside of the Senate, which is ostensibly independent, is then given the appearance of being ratified by a Senate group. And I wonder if that, my concern is that that could set a precedent. That not this year, not next year, but 5 years from now, some other person who may be one of us is at the other end of that vote of no confidence. And then we have set a precedent in this body whereby you are not only held in no confidence by a public vote, but that becomes, how should I say, drawn into what is perceived by as censure by the Senate. And so I would just say with any of these procedures, I know that everyone has very strong opinions, but I would be very, very careful about what we're doing now in terms of how it sets a precedent for how we will conduct ourselves and how we will be perceived later. That's my caution. That's my only caution. And I think that the situation is sufficiently ambiguous and confusing that misperceptions are inherent in this process.
So, I'm sorry, it's actually Paul.
Oh, Paul, I'm sorry.
I feel like we're not voting on, if we were to vote on this resolution, we're not voting on a policy. We are not voting on something that directly affects the people that we represent. It does not directly affect the faculty. It does, however, affect our ability to conduct business. If we have an administration that, regardless of what our committees recommend, will impose and do whatever they want, our only obligation is to fight for our body, our group. We have a right to be able to make recommendations and have those recommendations heard and not ignored. And everything that this president has done has ignored the recommendations that some aspect of this body has recommended.
So the order that I have next is Dan, Yolanda, Melissa, Eduardo, Rod, and Simon, and Francis. So, Danny?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Yolanda?
Well, I guess I don't really see much ambiguity in it because a vote of no confidence is a vote of no confidence. And the way I see it is that the faculty voted through an ad hoc committee because we failed to initiate that vote. And that vote was taken on by an ad hoc committee, and that's why I was trying to get it to come to Faculty Senate, because Faculty Senate does have more weight with the board than an ad hoc committee. We are the official body for faculty, as Melissa pointed out in her very, involved statement that pointed out that fact. So I think that this is based, we're not endorsing anything, or we are looking at what is put before us and we're voting yes or no. Do you feel that you have confidence in this administration to work with us and for us to do what we need to do, or do you feel that we have no confidence? And so for me, it's not ambiguous,
Can I ask Melissa a question? I mean, are you okay with the idea of basically people being able to send some edits to you over the next 4 days? You're okay with that, I guess?
Yes, I was going to suggest, we can change the language. It has to be something that we're all comfortable with, because it is coming from us, our body. As for setting a precedent, I should hope we set the precedent that we do take a stand on shared governance at this school. If you don't want to vote for the document that comes out of this, then you would just vote no or abstain. And again, change the language, send me a draft. So I would just recommend to send me the edits that you might have within a certain deadline and bring it next time.
What's a reasonable deadline? Can I ask you what a reasonable deadline would be?
I could get it. Whatever's reasonable for all of you.
What reasonable deadline would people want for people to get edits to Melissa?
Monday.
By next Monday?
Next Monday.
I'd like to have it.
That gives us a full week.
Friday.
It's a full week.
Friday.
Gives you the weekend.
2 days.
The weekend.
Okay.
So we give it to her give our recommendations to Melissa by Friday, and by Monday she can get the document
So
to
Melissa,
Judy?
this is what I had you next on the order, and
Yeah,
is this
that's
what you
what I
wanted
was
to say?
gonna
I want to
say.
make sure that I'm clarifying it, because I know other people had questions.
Yeah.
And so after Melissa, Eduardo, you were gonna go next, then I have Rod, Simon, Francis, me, and Pat.
Okay. I was going to say that this vote here, we're reaffirming what the faculty have already voted. Last time we were discussing this, Deborah had mentioned the issue of, only 52% of the people voted. And so I was looking at that, and so I looked at some statistics. Right now, recently, there is elections here in LA primaries. 22% of the registered voters voted. So does that mean that it should not move forward? Then we got presidential elections, 2002, 36%. Excuse me, this is for California. There were elections in 2002, 36%, 43% the following year, 57, 35, 39. So the mere fact that 51% of the people voted, what that tells you also, that is there a certain amount of fear that exists on the camp? Going back to the issue of fear. I don't know who you guys are who are putting this, so I'd rather not vote. So that could possibly explain why there weren't more. But nevertheless, 52% or 51 point whatever it was, that is a tremendous number of people to vote. One final point that I like to say is the reason why it was, with all due respect to you, Dustin, I don't believe if we were to table it that you would put it on the agenda. So for that reason, I do believe that we should take a vote today and not table it.
We already moved to not.
I understand, but I had to say that.
It's still just a first reading. So Rod,
I'm sorry, can I just?
I don't think we have enough.
well, Rod, you're next too.
Thank you. The Senate's silence on this issue has allowed Dr. Rocha to go out in public, very, very publicly, and to spin the vote of no confidence as a union issue, and basically forget everything that he's ever done to disrupt, block, stop shared governance on this campus. And the union is a very small piece of this. What this is about is a campus where faculty get removed by force from their posts. I've been here for 28 years. I've never seen that before until this year. And another thing is that we can speak to this issue and protect our faculty by speaking to this issue and make this real. And I just ask the people in this body to go back and review the video of Dr. Rocha and Gail Cooper hijacking the Senate meeting last year and basically declaring the Senate their vassal. And if you think that you want to stand by and trust that man to do the right thing, then I think you're letting your other faculty members down.
So we have Simon and then Francis.
Simon?
Sure. I do think it's wise not to take a full vote on the resolution today by the Senate, and I say that having come from some experience with this now. When we took our vote, we had a packet full of academic information on what a no confidence actually meant at higher institutions, which I'm happy to provide. And we looked at it and we examined the studies that were done on it very closely, and we decided we wanted to move forward anyway. I think but when you take these votes, they are very important. And so I want everyone to be on the same page, or at least ready to agree to disagree when it comes down to the votes when it happens. I would hope to see that this come back, obviously, in 2 weeks, since that seems to be what you guys want to do, but I would say consider it carefully. It's a very big decision. And obviously, I'm biased, I would love the support, clearly. But I also want the academic senate, and I want any group that takes this step to do so fully understanding what its consequences are. We did that. We're facing them now. I mean, our own vote of no confidence has been characterized as union porn issues, and I vehemently go against that. But you know, I caution and consideration carefully. And I think that if you were to take the 2 weeks, get edits back, and then next week or 2 weeks from now, you guys are prepared to really get into the meat of what it means, then I think you've done your faculty, whether you decide to vote as a Senate-only body, as representatives of your division, or if you decide individually on that, then you will have done the faculty you serve a better service. Would be my only suggestion.
Francis.
Excuse me. My confusion is, when could this body act as a unit independent of the faculty it represents? That's a big question, because my understanding or my confusion arises from the fact that we seem to be talking about this institution, this academic institution, being independent and acting independently of the faculty we are representing. Aren't we the mouthpiece of the faculty? Aren't we representing the faculty whenever we speak here? Is there any time we would say, we are speaking as people or members independent of the faculty?
That was more than that. Well, are you looking for a succinct
I
answer,
can
or
say
is that a
question.
theoretical
I'm
question?
looking for, yes. Because I'm sorry now, Dustin, it might be a wrong impression. Sometimes you seem to act independently of this body without due consideration. I think this body elected you, or the faculty elected you to represent them. And then you don't seem to give that opportunity for full consideration of their views before you take any decision to do anything.
So I'm next.
I mean, the question has not been addressed. I posed the question, yes.
Do you have an answer? That's a question I've been wrestling with for the 4 years that I've been doing this.
Yes.
I spoke to Edward about this when I was representing the English division, and it's a thorny question about representation. And it's according to my discussions at the statewide level, they, as a statewide body, do not take a position that does not represent the will of their whole. So every vote they take, for example, if they really want to take a position and their body as a whole says no, they cannot take that position. So the implication is that the Senate Executive Committee at the statewide level represents the will of the whole statewide, 111 colleges as a whole. They do advocate, and they often strongly advocate for a position one way or another, and my experience has been they usually win. When they stand up, when Michelle Pilati stands up, or when Beth Smith stands up, or especially when Wheeler stands up. But if the Senate goes against them, they go with that. And so as far as this body goes, my sense, I have to sort of agree with Deborah. I really believe that we have processes that exist for a reason. I like to sort of second what Simon says. I mean, these are really serious votes that we'd be taking here, and sort of just reiterate what I said earlier. I'll put my own personal opinions about this aside because they're irrelevant, because I don't get a vote here. But what really matters is that we go through the right process. The reason why is this is what I said to Yolanda earlier on last Thursday. If we don't do it that way, if we do it differently, I'll have Gail Cooper at the Senate meeting, at the board meeting, striking down and not letting me finish my speech. Now, and because basically,
let it happen.
Okay. The things that have always been done in this Senate, what she's going to say is this. The Senate took a vote based on an ad hoc committee that was not a designated body of this body. We're basing it on that. And we're taking a vote based on that. And therefore,
again, he's giving his interpretation for us, and he's really good about letting you go.
So basically, that if we want this to have meaning, over the last year, let me just sort of say it straight. My term is almost done, okay? And if I survive another couple weeks, if my kids can actually have a happy daddy. I have worked hard the last year, repeatedly, to try to build bridges with this administration since day one. And I believe very strongly, if I were elected today, that we would be having winter session, okay? But I was brand new, okay? I was figuring things out. I said at the board meeting on the 29th, we needed more time. 3 board members agreed with me, okay? Since that time, I have been working hard to talk to every single administrative official, from Gail Cooper, to Bob Miller, to Dr. Bell, to the president, to several members of the Board of Trustees, on a personal level. Do I agree with all their decisions? No. Do I think we should have had winter delayed for a year so we could discuss it? Yes. Okay, they know I feel that way. Dr. Rocha knows I feel that way. He's been talking to me about NCN since day one, and we have said no consistently since day one, okay, as a body. But I also want to say that from my personal opinion, they have been willing over the last 9 months to listen to us. Okay, let me just give you 2 instances. Number 1, okay, they were ready to go ahead on Carnegie. Okay, they were ready to just implement Carnegie. We had town halls. We had discussions with them in Kappa. We had private discussions with them. I had private discussions with them myself. After the town hall meetings happened, you notice they backed off. Number 2, I was told way back in December, I can't remember, December, November, that if we want hires, we're going to get none. Because that was actually, it must have been before Prop 30 passed, so it must have been October. Then Prop 30 passed, and so we consistently said we need to get some hires. We need to get some hires. It was still 0. Then January, we got the idea that we're going to get 7. Then we brought 3 more individuals into that room, and we got 10. Okay, and the reason I believe fervently that happened is because I personally and the executive committee built up goodwill with the administration. So if we vote this now, okay, first of all, I urge you not to, but if you do, I will respect the will of the majority, okay? And if I'm in the minority, that's fine. But if you do, you're going to be basically undermining all of those efforts. You're going to be basically saying, the methods that Dustin took just don't work. Okay, and I can promise you, as far as I understand it, Dr. Rocha will still be here in September, and all we will have is just basically a lot of ill will toward this body. So, if we really do have no confidence in the administration, if the majority really believes that, I believe very strongly that, this is what I told Yolanda, it should go through the proper procedure. We create a Senate committee, an actual designated Senate committee. They do all the research. They get all the information together. They make a case. They bring it to the academic senate. It goes through the 3 reads that we've always done. And I'll be out of this body, so I will be just an ordinary grunt out there doing my job, okay, gladly. But I will respect the will of that majority. And I will be up at the Board of Trustees saying, okay, I was wrong to have faith in this administration. I did not think that this was as widespread, but it is. So again, that is my opinion, but I will respect the will of the majority, okay? I've tried my best to respect the will of the majority, but I still believe, number 1, that this is a mistake for the Senate to do it this way, and second, that it's a mistake for the Senate to do it altogether.
Since I posed the question, no, I wanted to have the understanding of the answer you've given. Excuse me, you talked about building bridges for goodwill. All right. Was it the Senate that started when the Rocha first arrived, insulting Rocha, not taking Rocha, not admitting Rocha, not acknowledging Rocha as president? Or was it the other way around, in order to start building breaches?
I have to let Edward answer that question, so I can't answer that for him.
I mean, you had no sense when you took over of what the origin, of what the history was.
So you're vice president.
Huh?
Doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter to have the understanding?
No. The sidebar.
Okay. Sidebar. I mean, from your own, I understand what you're talking about is somebody on the other side. And you're talking about that you were building bridges for this body.
Right.
And you were designated by this body to build bridges, and you're doing that privately on your own.
Well,
or was
part of
it
my
something,
job.
or part of your job as elected, and you're doing it on behalf of and reporting it to the body? That's good. That's nice. But the idea is, when it first started, was it this body or you representing this body who created the situation where there was no communication, no goodwill, then you had to reestablish goodwill? You see my question?
I can understand.
Okay, what was the beginning, the origin of it, when Rocha first introduced himself, showed up?
I understand your question.
Yes.
I understand it.
So I'm up next.
Or no answer?
This has nothing to do with Dustin. I mean, come on.
Or has something to do with the understanding?
Yeah, and I think this kind of goes to what my point is, which is this. I really believe in the democratic process, and I clearly really believe in free speech. You can't be a speech teacher and not do that. But I also want to say,
what you're talking about. Yeah.
So, but the reason that I'm also saying this is because I've had a very bizarre experience on this campus regarding issues around this. And what I mean is, doing a public vote like this is a big deal. And it's not a big deal because I think the administration really cares, the board really cares, because I don't think they care. What I think is problematic.
That's very
No. What I think is problematic is that when we engage in this talk, other faculty talk to other faculty in a way that is demeaning. It is rude. It is mean. I have had people make homophobic remarks around me, about me. I've had people lie about my position, some people in this very room. I've had people tell students untruths because of these issues. And some of you are thinking, no, that couldn't happen, except that I have had these conversations over the last year. And when we take a document like this, right, that is really important, and I agree it's really important, I don't think it's the talk about this document that matters. It's how we talk to each other about this document that matters. And my concern is, and I think Francis has led into that, is that we sometimes, and I can count today, 4 people in this room who had actions, comments that were biting, mean, not necessarily the most collegial processes, not because they were trying to attack another faculty member, but because they're trying to attack the administration and they're willing to cut down another faculty member to get to the administration.
That is the reason why I was asking for
Right.
the origin,
But-
because it
no,
probably
this is my turn,
the
Francis.
person who started it wanted it to happen that way.
Right, but no,
So that
what
you
I'm saying
fight,
is, and this is my moment.
and there's opportunity.
And this is my moment.
Divide and conquer.
Where what I'm saying is, I think it's important for us to have this conversation, but I think it's really, really important for us to think about the fact that many of us in this room hold multiple positions. Some of us are on the union and here. It means you're representing us in 2 ways, and if you're talking in a way that is demeaning, homophobic, transphobic, behind people's back, you're not representing.
That's bad.
Right, you're not representing our body. And my concern is, and that's why I'm looking at this, which is I want to make sure that we're having this conversation, however we get the edits in a way that are meaningful so that we can come back together. If the idea is this is to unify our faculty, right, which is what I think people are trying to do, and I totally support that choice, that we actually have to, 1, start talking to each other in positive, meaningful, valuable ways that recognize that we're human beings and that we're capable. And my concern is, and that's my experience is, when we talk about this culture of fear, The culture of fear for many folks is not the president, it is their fellow faculty.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
I'm saying it from a very real place, having had really personal experiences with people in this room who have said really damaging things about me that aren't true. So as we move forward, I'm only saying this because I think if we want to unify faculty, then we are exactly the people to unify faculty, but we have to do it around clear language that can be unifying. Right? So that was my 3 minutes. Right, I took it. Next up, we've got Dan.
Justin, I heard you speak and talk about going through the process, being off the committee, getting input. Justin, this should have been started a long time ago. I mean, the administration is just totally ignoring us. Every time we start to say something, they just ignore it, and they think that if they talk to us at least once, they've done their job, and they don't have to listen to us anymore. If they said something to you, something back, that's all their responsibility. This resolution should have been on the agenda, and now what we're hearing is you won't even guarantee that it's going to be on the next agenda.
No, that's not what he said.
Yeah,
That's what he said.
Shall we, let's verify it then.
I think people would be willing to say, okay, let's re-edit it and get it in, but let's make sure we get it in on the last Senate meeting. Will it be on the last Senate meeting for a vote?
I would want to say anything publicly along that until I see what it says. I have to read it.
Well, listen, I think most of the Senate at least want to have a vote on it. And I think most of the faculty want to have a vote on it. If you look at the numbers, yes, not everybody voted, but if everybody else who didn't vote voted to not vote in confidence, it would still be a majority of the full-time faculty. People are speaking out very, very strongly. They want to see some leadership. Can we have a vote here?
I can't say no really. I really can't until I see what it says. I can't commit to something I don't haven't seen.
Well, I don't know how to stress strongly that if we don't, as a body, vote on this either tonight or guarantee that we vote on it in 2 weeks, we are losing our opportunity to even define what's going on at PCC. You heard President Rocha on KPCC today, and what did he say? We don't have a problem with shared governance on this campus. We have a problem, it's a labor dispute. Calendar, the academic reasons for canceling the calendar, we all know through IPRO. These were statistics that IPRO gave the calendar committee, all right, that is false, all right? So if we don't stand up and vote either tonight or you guarantee that we vote in 2 weeks, we lose the opportunity to ever stand up for anything. All right, and we are going to allow this administration to continue to define in the press, which it has done, on the airwaves, on TV, allow them to define that the problem is not with the administration, it's with us. We give up all rights to do that. And so I think that you need to guarantee for us, all right, that this will come to a vote in 2 weeks. And I don't really understand why you can't do that. Because we vote, it's a standard vote. We can vote against it and we can vote for it. So I'm not really sure why that should trouble you, because we all are going to make a decision to vote. Right? And you don't, and as president, you don't vote, right?
I don't.
So I'm not sure why you can't guarantee that we're going through this process. We're going to vote. I think we've decided it. We'll get these edits back to Melissa in a week. She'll forward them all to us. We can think about this, and we come back in 2 weeks and vote. I am not going to leave here, really, until you can definitely tell us whether we are going to get the opportunity to vote on this in 2 weeks. Because the truth is, I don't really trust you to let us vote if you don't say right now that you want us to.
I understand that. So, Deborah?
You're after her.
Faculty, are losing the PR game at every turn here, right? Would you agree? We're losing, right?
We're losing if we don't vote.
Right. Well, no, excuse me, but if we don't follow a rigorous procedure in this matter, we're just going to lose another round because there'll be no credibility to the vote. As I mentioned at the last meeting, the idea of a 92% vote of no confidence stands up for about 1 second. Unfortunately, only the Courier seems to have bought it. But the fact is, 92% was of the number of people who responded to the poll. It was not the total number of faculty. It wasn't even the total number of full-time faculty. If you start looking at the actual percentage of people who voted, it's considerably lower. At the time I made this argument to Pat, I was saying, go with the lower number. It's still more than 50%. And that way you'll at least have some credibility. You throw out a number like 92%, and it takes 2 seconds to discredit the result. So this is the same argument I would make over and over again. Make sure that the process is valid. Make sure that you, and I can only agree with Penella, the result of the conversation that I had regarding the numbers ended up with the comment that anyone who didn't vote for the vote of no confidence was ignorant.
No,
and I'm sorry, but that's
misrepresented what I said.
I would also say that I would really defer to Simon's knowledge on exactly what constitutes a vote of no confidence. It's not the same as voting between two candidates in an election. It's a fundamentally different type of vote. And I don't think we understand or are knowledgeable enough about the process and the implications of those of a vote of no confidence. I also don't think that in the way that the vote of no confidence was presented, which was a one-side-only packet of information, would also carry, would also convey a lot of confidence to the general public. And just in conclusion, I would say education is undergoing in this country a phenomenal change. It's an extraordinarily difficult change. And it's one that is threatening to undermine the teaching profession as a collegiate group, as a relevant group within our society. And I would much rather be dealing with that problem than an obstreperous, nasty little president who, I mean, let's face it, we get rid of them, who do we get next? You want to be doing this every 6 months until your tenure is gone, until your pension is undermined, until they bring in pure performance objectives where if you don't pass 90% of the people in your class, you lose your job. I mean, where do you want to go? I honestly think that the only way that we can achieve any reasonable change here is to operate at the level of senators, by the rule of law, by adopting and following the correct procedures. And everything that we do, disrupting our meetings for 3 hours so that we don't actually get to some of the business that's also really important, undermines our validity and undermines our perception in the public. And if this is a war about public perception, the only option we have to do is, the only option we really have is to take the high ground. That's the reality, or otherwise we're never going to win it.
So next up is Melissa, Kevin, Danny, Kathleen, Simon, and looks like I've got Eduardo.
First of all, Penella, I am shocked and horrified to have heard that you have suffered, from any kind of remarks. But I'm hoping that it's not regarding this document. About or that something on this document relates to you personally. If it does, we should probably strike it because it has nothing. This document has nothing to do with you. Second of all, again, just to clarify what I was intending when we voted on putting this on the agenda, this is not an endorsement of the past vote that faculty have made, whether or not 50% or 52% of them, 92%, it's all out off the table. What I mean is what we would be voting on is our own Senate voice. Dustin, if you don't want to go to the Board of Trustees because you're worried about what Gail Cooper might attack you with, we would go with you, a delegation will go with you, we could do it together. And this should be a voice from the Senate. Again, it is our stand. We want this document, if we strike all 3 pages and we just have a where is that? This, for presentation purpose only, resolution of support. If we just have one sentence, that's fine. I mean, as long as we take a stand is the point. I'm wondering, in terms of process, what was I'm not sure of the process that came about with this resolution of support. The one I believe that someone was going to talk about today. How did this come about in front of us? So, I mean, I'm all for following a process. I just want to make sure that right now we all understand we're not voting based on the faculty vote of no confidence that has already occurred. That's done. We're now deciding as a Senate what we want to tell the board, and that's it. I'll stop.
So, Casey, and then Mayor John.
Okay, Kevin, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Clinton. I'll be speaking very shortly on kind of what you told me, President Hanvey, or told us. It was very poignant, and I just wanted to really, some of the things you really said struck me. I used to be a lobbyist. I was the vice chair of the Associated Students Lobby Committee. I set up district visits with DC representatives, including Judy Chu, the district legislative education representative, Congressman Becerra, as well as another trip to Adam Schiff's office. What I heard from President Hanvey was a bit disheartening. He told us, at least how I interpret it, is instead of having to lobby or talk to the administration, he was basically being forced into a position where he had to beg to get the basic rights that are laid down by AB 1725 as your 10+1 responsibilities. Instead of having the ability to listen to, he approached the room knowing with quite a bit of clarity, that if he didn't do something, they were just going to go through the plan without any of your consideration. While I was actually in this meeting, I went and looked at the policy that was reviewed for the IEC. It's already posted up on PCC's website as if it is policy that has been enacted.
That's the old one.
That's the old
That's
one?
the old one.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I mean, like,
no, it's the old one.
What really, it just really affected me. When I came here last meeting, I said, and Rocha was here, I said, did you really have a choice in having the police be here? And he gave me this look like I was kind of put in a compromised situation where I didn't have that choice. And I knew it would upset the body, but it was either upsetting the body or destroying what I was trying to build. You struggled a lot trying to build a working relationship with the administration. And that struggle, it has hurt you both, collegially with those who you're working with, but it's completely and utterly unfair. I mean, when you're lobbying, it's not an adversarial process. It's like, I want to tell you what I want, maybe you're open to it. It's not, I know what I want, you don't want. I'm going to have to get on my knees and say, please listen to me. That's not what's supposed to be in the shared governance process. It's supposed to be, we're working together to do the best thing for everyone on this campus. And the reason that the votes of no confidence keep popping out is because of relationships, adversarial relationships that are set up with, like the one you have with your administration, President Hanvey. Like the one that Simon had to deal with when he was trying to deal with the administration. That was like yours, except being in a worse position, because as students, we have to work 3 times harder to be listened to, which is why you can talk to us about, Brown Act, or you can talk to us about parliamentary procedure, because we have to train ourselves, or else they look at us with this extreme lack of disrespect and treat us as such. And, I mean, do we really want to deal with that? That's all.
Thank you, Kevin. So Danny, then Kathleen, Simon.
All right, just a couple of comments. First of all, I wish Deborah Bird had not left, but her comments regarding the use of 92%. I would challenge anybody to find where it said 92% of all the faculty. It always said 92% of the participants, which is actually an accurate statement and a true statement. because 92% of the faculty that participated in that vote voted for a vote of no confidence, 188, and only 16 voted against that. So there were approximately 54% of the entire body, and if you take just those that were in favor of it, it's just less than 52%, but it's over the majority. So going back to, and again, I'm going to jump around with a couple things here, but I'll try to make it brief. One of the things you said, Dustin, was that that when the statewide academic senate, it never does anything that its majority doesn't approve of. Well, we have, even with the intimidation on this campus, some people thought that vote was organized by Rocha to find out who was against them and who was for them, so they wouldn't get involved. That's why some people didn't participate. I talked to people like that. So even with all the things that are going on, the people that didn't trust the group that was doing it, didn't know what's going on, we still had over 50% of our entire full-time faculty voted in favor of this vote of no confidence. So if the rule for the state is that they don't do anything without the support of the majority, we have the majority even with that vote. Another thing that was said, Pernilla, you mentioned that, you know, you don't believe the president or the board cares if we have this vote. I think you're dead on. I think you're right. I don't think they give a rip. They don't give a rip about anything we do at this college. And that's why so much distrust. In this room, the reason why this IEC, I do think there's some legitimate problems with it, but there's also just a whole atmosphere of distrust of what might happen if too much power was put in the hands of the people that run this college right now. And even with the limited power that they have, they're overstepping their bounds and not following shared governance in so many instances. The calendar, NCN, you know, we could go on with a whole list of things. So, I mean, these are the types of things that this wouldn't be happening if the administration didn't do the things it's done over the last 2.5 years. I don't know. I had some other thoughts, but that's good enough for now. Well, you know, I do want to just go back. There was the annual board retreat back in September of 2011. These are minutes from it. And there were two things. Number one, President Rocha asked the board to make sure, to really enforce a policy to make sure that all contact with staff members with the board would have to go through him as president and superintendent. So he was already trying to control free speech on this campus. And then the second thing I want to mention, and this has to do directly with shared governance, President Rocha explained to the board members that he communicates and consults with the college leaders and key constituent groups regarding planning and other issues. Although consultation occurs with the key leaders and constituent groups, these leaders/groups may make recommendations, but they are not asked to approve decisions. The superintendent president approves the item to be brought before the board for review. So in essence, he was saying, shared governance, there's, you know, you can call it whatever you want. I'll go and consult with these people, but I'm going to make that final decision. So if the majority, for instance, on the calendar committee now that has voted, I believe, 3 times in favor of a winter intersession is being completely disregarded by this administration, that's the type of thing that's created this atmosphere on this campus.
So next up is Kathleen.
Okay, well, I have a few points, but I gotta tell you, I've been here since 6 and I haven't eaten since, so I don't know if I can speak through it all. My mind feels very fuzzy right now. I personally have no confidence in our president's ability to lead. As he spoke 2 weeks ago and talked about how we have to move on, I couldn't help but think, you have lost my respect, I'm not listening to you, I don't believe you have the ability to make us move on, and so on. I would love to get a nice process where we come up with a vote of no confidence. I think that we should have done it a long time ago, but we didn't. That being said, I don't think that this should be rushed. I'm with Deborah. I think we need to follow a process. You know, we've all had to write up these things by committee, and to think that we can give her edits and have us come up with something that we're all going to be happy with, I think is impossible. I mean, me looking at it, for instance, I would want it to be much shorter and to focus on shared governance.
I wouldn't want the part about the ad hoc committee even in here at all, because there are people that in my division who have said that they don't want us rubber stamping what that committee did. And I mean, I'm fine with us sending her edits and putting it forward, but I would be very surprised if something we came up with something next week that I felt really comfortable voting on, even though I personally have no confidence. I really, let's see, what else? I think that we should have done this sooner. And I would like to have it done before the end of the school year, but I think it's too important to rush it and make it be sloppy. I don't know why we didn't do it sooner. And quite honestly, Dustin, I understand what you're saying, and I understand trying to make peace and work well together. I'm all about that. But I'm really surprised that you have, even though you're not allowed to vote, that you have the ability to unilaterally say, it's up to me whether we even vote on this next week. I don't understand how, with all the words I hear in this room, I don't understand how you could possibly say, I'm not even gonna put it up for a vote. That you don't trust that we're gonna say, this is not well written, we're not gonna vote it. I don't know how that works, but I have no confidence, but I'm not gonna rush to vote for something that I think is not following procedure. And you talked about what is the procedure. This is a long document. And I just think that when people start giving you your edits, they're going to be conflicting things, and you're going to have to make the decision of which way to go. I would much rather see a committee put something together and have a first read and a second read, and I know that there's not time for that, but that doesn't mean that I want to do it in a half-assed sort of way.
You're not going to interject here for a second. We've lost quorum here. So I guess that is, we've lost quorum.
15, 16, 17. We've got 4. 33, 17, yeah. 33.
But even if we don't have a quorum, that just means you can't vote on something. It doesn't mean we have to stop.
Are you just clarifying? I'm just clarifying, we have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Even if we don't.
Can we vote here?
Well,
To send me,
Call the question.
we'll try.
as we all agree.
So we're at the point where we can make a motion to say we are going to send Melissa the edit, so that would be calling the question. That's the original motion that was on the table. Given the fact that that person is no longer here, makes it a little sketchy, but we can move forward to it. I might also add, Judy needs to get to a family emergency tonight, like in the next 20 minutes. And I would like us to be mindful of the fact that she's been here overtime and has somewhere else to be, and we have a long agenda item. So Melissa, if I'm hearing you, you're asking that we move your item, we take a vote on the tabling of this discussion to agendize this for the next meeting, right?
What? I'm sorry.
I'm clarifying right now because I've also followed
Yeah.
a number of conversations.
A couple of things. I completely understand what you're saying. That is a very large document, and then I'm going to give my 2 cents. Paul's going to give 2 cents, and we probably will have conflicting ways to remedy this. So perhaps if it was what you were talking about, just a very simple, plain 2-line sentence, I think that would be so much easier to be able to vote on without having the difficulties. And a couple of statements. I again wish Deborah was here. What we're doing here, she was saying we're just waiting 3 hours when we have more important issues. I don't think this issue is not just as important as anything else. I mean, she wants to, education is under attack and we need to be fighting. Well, what we should fight for is this clear and present danger that exists here on campus, and that's the president of this college. He has created this environment, and all the more reason why this vote should be taken, specifically for this reason. And the problem that I have with trying tabling it is, again, Pat asked you, will you guarantee that this will be on the agenda? And you still haven't said that. So either from my perspective, we vote today, or you guarantee it'll be on the agenda.
May I make a proposal then? Could we just have a very simple resolution of no confidence, and then if you all can look, or I'll read it, be it resolved that, and then the very last paragraph, and then we send edits to that, only that short paragraph.
So
I'm
Simon,
gonna propose that right now as a motion.
I don't, it's, so now that that's kind of, that's an edit that would require a first read, because now you're proposing a new.
Wouldn't that be a friendly
document.
amendment?
Right, because you're totally amending it to wholeheartedly.
Nix the whole 3 pages and just this very last paragraph to edit that, send me your edits to that.
Edit last
Yeah, I don't think we can do that right. We can make that, but we can't vote on that, right?
We're gonna vote that that's what's gonna happen within the next, until
So that's your
Friday.
second revision that you think that you're
Right.
gonna
That
propose,
was
okay.
the
That'll
second-
be her second, that'll come
Right,
back.
okay, so then you proposing that that would be your
Yeah.
revision.
That just to be a resolve.
Be it resolved.
That's
Very
what we
simple,
will
right
edit
there.
So
and
then,
vote on.
much like we would ask anybody else, then you would move forward. We have now lost
Yeah.
quorum.
lost one now.
As it's now 7 o'clock and everybody has
Yeah,
places to
doesn't
be.
matter.
So what I might say to do, because now we're at the point where we need to probably call for tabling the remaining agenda items, because we can't do much with them. What I might do, Melissa, is send that new version, much like we had discussed following the.
Let me just sort of throw something out there, just for the, if I become Hitler and I say no, this particular body has the right to have a 2/3 vote and overrule me at the next meeting. So there's really no reason to be afraid of me. That is your remedy. Back to Kathleen's question, the bylaws say that I determine the agenda. The bylaws committee can change that. Okay. I promise that I will consider whatever Melissa sends to Judy. The executive committee will take a look at it the Wednesday before the meeting, and we will make a determination at that time. If you don't like what we determine, overrule us by having a 2/3 majority at the next meeting. And
Move to adjourn.
if the 2/3 do so, then that's the will of the majority. Of the supermajority.
All right, second.
So in that note, as we adjourn, it's also the week of wellness. So take care of your mental health, folks.
Be well and prosper.
Be well.
Just respect the Senate vote.